Oops. Hi guys. No one's here that. Here we go. Hi everyone. Hi. Good morning. Sorry, I'm running a bit behind. Had a crazy morning here. Letting everyone in. Few more people in. All right, so welcome to our last week of class. Go ahead and go to the chat, everyone, and sign in, please. Letting people in. Okay. I'm getting signed in. Hello. Okay, so there's 3 people this morning who are doing some going to LA. In fact, 2 of them for medical appointments. What's up, guys? Stay healthy, please. Anyway, that's the way it is. It's usually spouses that they're taking or something, but it's last year spring session or fall session, suddenly I had 3 people in the hospital in a credit class, not even in a non-credit class. I was like, what? It always happens in waves, and not because of COVID. So anyway, waiting for my Wi-Fi to sign in. Meanwhile, I wanted to share with you guys the portal where, why is it not? Okay, are you guys seeing the Padlet?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So let me go over here and make sure it's not connecting yet. Yeah, Padlet's still working on it. Okay. So here we go. We have a bunch of the little creeks that are reflected, and some of you guys put your basic correction in there, which would be these 3, and then some put the ones that were already the altered versions with different testing and like someone says here, wacky colors. I do want to comment though that if you can pay attention to the fact that these 3, which are the ones that people corrected as correct or as what they thought was neutral, notice how different they are between them. I wish they were all together so you could see better. Can I move them? Actually, look, I can move them. I did not. There you go. So here we have 3. Can you guys tell how different they are? So it's so subjective. Here's another one. It is so subjective. Oh, well, they went underneath. Anyway, just saying that so much of this is really subjective, and it gets to the point where you have to train your eyes to see the little bit. So here you see a very bluish snow. This one's tad greenish. This one is a baby a little bit under in contrast, but color seems neutral. This one seems much more intense in contrast, neutral. So it all depends. When I call it neutral is based on what I am seeing right now. You guys are looking at me going, no, that's not blue, that's green, that's red. It's because your screen is seeing it different. You know what I mean? So anyway, just wanted to show that even when you have a lot of them put together, let me see if I replace these 2 up there, if they all get put together, at least in my sharing of them, the ones that are supposed to be neutral. And I'll put the ones that are supposed to be colorful. I didn't know I could do that. This is the first time I did that. That's interesting. Okay, and I've left one of the non-neutrals ones down there. Okay, so now I put the 4 or 5. Here's one more of the ones that are supposed to be neutral on the top. Here we go. These 5. And can you see the difference between them?
Yes.
Beyond the ones that are supposed to purposely have been made into different colors. So anyway, it just goes to show how subjective this is. And this isn't just because you guys are learning. That's part of it too. but also it's part of because you guys are learning to do it and you have different screens and different sensibilities to what's neutral or not neutral, right? So anyway,
Oops.
I see Baylor. Wow. I get it. Yeah. Is this whole issue with electricity? I've had so many different issues with electricity this summer. So yeah, no problem. All right. So I have a couple people who are not here and some who are joining just with their phones. So we'll do with the best we can with those who can join. All right. So thank you everyone for putting that stuff in there. Oh, and one more thing. I'm going to get my bridge in Photoshop open meanwhile. I do that, I'll come back here. And then Mason posted one of the cookie pictures here showing how she's accessing the neural filters, but there isn't any particular neural filter being accessed here, I think, unless you used one right here. Is it, Mason? Is this one have a neural filter on it or not yet? Oh, the colorized one. Okay, got it. And then you played around there. Okay, cool. And that reminds me, because the last thing we did had to do with masking this and adding and taking away with your brush. Okay, so that we're going to continue with that. Plus, we're going to spend more time on the whole editing of pictures with raw, but also getting into the whole resolution conversation. So let's head back to Bridge. And I haven't yet checked in on, see, I hope, I'm going to just cross my fingers and hope that my images open up correctly. I had an issue with that it all crashed on me last time I used it. And it didn't, and I didn't sign out correctly, but I think I managed to fix the Google Drive. All right, so who's with me on VDI today? Actually, it looks like I might not have my VDI students here. No, Ao, are you here? Yeah, I think
Oh, I'm on VDI.
Ao is on. Oh, and you're on VDI too. Okay,
Yes.
and Gustavo. No, I don't know. I think Gustavo, by now you have your own applications. Anyway, all right. So here are the files, and we had opened this one here to edit the color cast, and I want to say that there's let's not open the same one. Let's go over to this one. There's two over here that are identical. Okay, sorry, the rows is the same rows, but they're not identical. If you notice them, when you try to check one or the other, and it's really hard to see over here, and that's why to see it bigger, even if you have the bigger preview over there, the best thing is to hit the space bar to make it go big. Wow, the preview is, how interesting. Why is the preview?
Diana, I'm not
Yeah,
seeing,
this might be, yeah, you're not
I'm
seeing
not
what?
seeing the stuff on the right side of the screen, the preview, publish. My preview's blank. Is it because I'm not clicked on something?
Yeah, you need to be, no, see, I'm starting to see that stuff that's happening here. That's because of
Okay.
my Google's going bad. So I have to go and resign my, yes, you need to, let me go and reconnect to my Google, guys, which I was trying to get away from, but no, it doesn't work. Disconnect my account. And then I'll connect it again. Cool. Yeah, you need to have something selected for it to work. So I woke up this morning to emails from Google, who owns YouTube, which is where I post the videos to give you the links, saying that they had taken down some of my one of my videos, two of my videos that I posted, which were the Mac Level 2 and the Photoshop one. saying that violated community policies for bullying, threatening, and harassing behavior. Like, what? That's crazy. What? And so then I read further, and it had to do with it. There was ways like personal information or something like that. So, and I think it was because in the Mac class, we were talking about emails, and you could see some people's emails. So I complained, and they, next thing I know, if I look at my YouTube videos, it looks like the Photoshop one is up again. So, which is that one, but they've removed the Mac level 2, so you guys can get to this one, which wasn't there before. Thought I'd let you know, because if you've tried to access it this weekend, it wasn't there, and I didn't know why, and it's because of this that we're reviewing it. Anyway, thought I'd let you know. Oh no, I walked out of my VDI to show you that. Hold on. Okay. I hate when I go into another tab and it removes my whole VDI info. I apologize. Let me stop my share so that it has less problem getting back into it. There it is, it's coming in. So does anyone have any questions before I, oh, they popped in again, so I can share again. Does anyone have any particular questions about something you were trying to do? No one said that their video wasn't there, so I'm assuming no one tried to access the video because you were in class last week. But if you did and you couldn't see it, please remember to let me know about that kind of stuff, okay? Because
How long will the video stay up for, Diana?
the videos will stay up for sure until the links for the videos will stay up until the fall session. The videos themselves will stay up later, but the links, oh, I'm having an issue with them. I'm sorry, I need to close. Bridge is not opening correctly. Nor is Photoshop. What is happening? Jesus. I hate it when it does. I can't see the ends of the. I have to close Photoshop and reset. I can't see the ends of the application. The whole thing is expanded. I know. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to, guys, let me stop sharing because you guys can't tell, but half my screen is not working. I can't get my taskbar.
Can I ask you a question while you're doing
So
that?
while I do that, yeah.
When does the fall class of this one start?
Good point. I can show you that while all of this is resetting.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go show you that. And let me go look for it. On my VDI is restarting. And yeah, you definitely should sign up here. That's not. Give me a second. I want to share my screen with you, but I'm trying to reset the Verizon, which is still giving me problems. And now I'll give you the schedule. Okay, so here we go. Here's the schedule for the fall, or at least my classes for the fall. And I'm teaching all 3 of the Mac classes, plus Photoshop, Digital Design Techniques, and Illustrator. And Photoshop itself starts September 2nd. Okay, so that's the first week of class. The first week of class opens, actually it would be a Friday, so that wouldn't be September 2nd. Let me see. I'm looking at the calendar. Yeah, actually, the first of the class starts the 29th. Yeah, so it is September 2nd is the first Friday. Okay, so that's the first Photoshop. And then the Illustrator starts in October and Digital Design Technique starts in October. So the first one is the Photoshop class and it's Fridays 9 to 12. And then for those of you interested in the Mac classes, it's Tuesday, Thursdays morning, 9 to 12:15. And they start in September and they go all the way through November, one after the other, the 3 levels. All right, good. VDI is there. Let me just put in here the CRN. I'll send you guys an email, but they have, there's a CRN for Photoshop for the fall. I just put it on the chat. 9 to 12 on Fridays. 9 to 12. Well, it's 11:55 on Fridays, starting September 2nd. All right. So this is now working and now it's small. Before it was too big, but for too small then too big, because then I can see the whole image. All right, let's see if it lets me see the files now without corrupting. I hope it's worked. Okay. All right, so it didn't ask me to re-sign into the Google Drive, so I hope they're not corrupted. All right, so here we go. I was talking about these 2 flowers and I was trying to show you the previews and they weren't working. Now they are. All right, so I have 2 of the same flower here. And so this one here on the left and on the right. Okay, and so I'm up in preview mode by having hit the space bar. And then when I'm up in this mode, I can go to the right with my arrow keys to see this one, or to the left to see this other one, or further left to see the one that's before. Okay, someone's on the phone. Let me mute you. I'm gonna ask you to mute yourself. All right, there we go. So notice the difference that even in the preview, you can tell that this photo here, even in the highest highlights, has a bit of rose texture. You see that? Versus the one on the left, the highlights are completely blown, right? Now, we're not sure if this is the case. This is what it looks like. You always need to first try. I mean, it's very probable that if the preview shows nothing, that it might be nothing. But if this is a raw file, if this was a raw file, you could process this and maybe find that there is some stuff in there or not, right? You can't just trust the preview if it's not been processed. But for the most part, you can save deep. Okay, so here we have some deep shadows that looks like they have no texture. But if I work with this in Photoshop, I might even be able to get some texture out of these deep shadows if I were to want to, right? But for the most part, when something is blown out like this, the camera just hasn't registered it. And so it's not there. So there's no fixing it. Versus this one, the camera captured it, but then, and if you know about photography, that means that the exposure was too long. You left it on for so long in order to capture these details in the highlights, that then by the time you finished, this got so much capture that it went black. But the whole point is that it's there. So you might be able to fix that by lightening that and seeing maybe the texture, if that's interesting to you. Versus here, the camera didn't stay open long enough to capture the details. So blown out stuff, there just is no detail there that you can invent. You know, see the difference? So sometimes you can, if you have a choice about whether a photograph is, when you're being taken, too dark or too light, definitely go for too dark, which is more fixable than too light might be. Now, both of these are JPEG files. So if you want to see if they can be worked on or not, you'd have to check them out. You can do it inside of Photoshop, or you can do it inside of RAW. Right now, I want to teach you a little bit more about masking. So I'm going to have us do it inside of Photoshop. So, but I want to open both of these. If I look at their pixels. I see 2608 over there by 1952, 2608 by 1952. So we're talking about two photos that are the same. So we can go ahead and open them. I didn't mean to double click to open it. I was actually just trying to show you how to, we've done this once, open both in the same file. So select one, hold the shift key and select the other one. And when both are selected, you can go up here to tools and Photoshop, just repeating this so that you guys remember it. No, and then load files into Photoshop layers. We're not going to mask one of these into the other. We're just going to check out on those highlights, but I'm just showing you again how to go ahead and open things where you want each one of them to open in the same file as a different layer. And there we go. So here we have both of our files. Give me a yay, okay, when you have that. And
Yay.
if you need me to repeat something, okay, to have both in the same document. Okay. Oh, here you're saying you didn't see the video. Yeah. So you
I did it. I just
Did you-
found it today.
you just found it. Okay. Yeah. It
Yeah.
just, for some reason, they were holding my videos and then they let this one go through. Okay. Megan, you want me to repeat it? Okay. So I went over here, select two at a time. They're next to each other. So you can click on one, hold shift, and then click on the other, and they both get selected. If they were not next together, if I had one here and then one down here, I would have to have control and a command for the Mac, but control for the PC, so that I can get 2 or 3 different ones that are not together. But since these are next to each other, shift works, but of course control or command would work as well. And then you go up to the word tools. Let me get my spotlight. It helps you see my mouse better. Okay, so then I'm going up here to the word tools and then choosing Photoshop. And once you see Photoshop, I'm opening load files into Photoshop layers. All right. Did that work, Megan? I'm going to head over into Photoshop now, where I have both of my layers together. And in my case, and I don't know if this is the same for everyone, but in my case, the blown out rows, so to say, is above, and if I turn this eyeball off, is above the one that does not seem to be blown out. Is that the same way for you?
Yes.
A couple of people saying yes, it probably has to do with files. I really don't know why it chooses what goes on top or what goes on the other. Let me see if it has to do with the position in bridge. It might, because the first one was that one. I don't know. I've never wondered why. I never noticed why one pops up in front of the other. It doesn't really matter, because once you're in here, you can just shift these back and forth really easily. I'm noticing that I'm not in the light. Okay, so the why it matters. What the reason I'm questioning which one's on top of the other is because we're going to do an adjustment layer on this, which is what we did at the beginning with hue saturation to change colors, but we're going to use a levels adjustment layer. And I want to show it to you because I showed you the histogram last week in Camera Raw. Remember the little mountain that shows you when there is too many pixels of one or the other, and that you wanted to make sure that you had that histogram where some of that little mountain of the graph touches the pure white and the pure black to make it be a balanced photo. So I showed you that last week in Raw, and so now I wanted to show you in Photoshop how would you deal with those kind of corrections. So in this case, everyone okay? I heard something fall. Select the layer that you want to have the levels work on. So say that you wanted it to work on the bottom layer, you would have to select that one, but then you wouldn't see it because this one is completely opaque and is on top. But fortunately, at this point, we want it to work on this one. So let's go ahead and select the top one, the one where the rose is smaller. And now
My
let's head
Instagram.
down. What's that?
I can't see my histogram. I see my
It's
color
not-
swatch.
Yeah, so there's the histogram way up at the top. So here's
Right,
the
it's
histogram.
mine's not there.
So then go up to the workspace, check on photography, and then say reset photography.
Okay.
Reset
I see that
photography.
either.
You need to have, your workspace must be available, yeah? So up on the top right, are you on a Mac or on a PC?
I'm on a PC.
All right, so then over here at the top right,
Yeah,
do
it's
you
not there.
see? You
I know.
don't see, okay, so then you're gonna have to share your screen with me because I don't know where else it can be. So, by the way, hi, Sue, thanks for joining us. I know that some of you guys are on the road and you're doing your best. So share your screen, please.
I'm doing that.
Perfect. All right, so yeah, on the far right, see on the far right where it says share, top right? You see at the top right where it says share?
Yes.
Okay, to the right, there's a magnifying glass, and further right, there's your, there it is. Click on that. That's your workspaces. Yeah,
Okay.
so go choose photography. And then go back up there and say reset. All the way right under. Yeah, cool. So now
Okay.
double click on the word libraries so that it closes up a bit. Right there, the big one that's empty.
Oh, okay.
Double click on the word, no, on the word libraries, which is up above the tab, a bit higher. Yeah, double click on it. There we go. So now you're in the same spot I am. So now
Okay.
choose the top layer, select the top layer of the two layers that you have. Select the top one, and you're exactly at the spot that I'll be. So now
Okay.
I'm going to stop your share and keep going. All right. So now we're going to get an adjustment layer to see. Okay, so first I was showing you here is the histogram. Okay, and as you can see, that seems to be there's quite a bit of darks. Again, every time I start, I need to set my new spotlight every time I start sharing. Someone has like a radio in the background or something. If so, can you please mute yourself? I don't know. I can't tell who it is. It seems to be coming from Andrea, but I don't know. It could be
No.
that you're the last one who spoke. There's
I have nothing on my,
yeah, I get a little sound highlight around the people who are speaking, right? But when it's just a vague noise, it doesn't really highlight the person. And so the last person highlighted is you because you were speaking, but I can't really sometimes tell when there's like radio sounds. Okay, so we're gonna go down. Car sound. Anyone in the car? I mean, I don't want to mute you all, but if you know that you're in a place that's not silent, please silence yourself, or I will have to mute everyone. Okay, I'm going to mute everyone because I don't know. So if you need to talk to me, know that you need to unmute yourself again. I've muted everyone, okay? Which I don't like doing like that, but I couldn't distinguish the sound. So now you're all quiet, and to speak to me, you need to unmute. Okay, so back to the top layer. So let's head down to our circle of all the little icons that we have down here. We're going to the one that's a little circle. That's our adjustment layer circle. We're gonna select, and then we're gonna head up. This time, we had done the hue saturation some at the beginning of this class. We're gonna head up to the levels and pull that one up. And the levels is the one where you get to work on the levels of light that exist in your image, similar to where we did the in raw, where you move the highlights and the darks and the lights and all the shadows and all of that. But we're doing it in here. Now notice that this histogram here at the top seems a bit more complicated because it has all these colors. Well, ultimately, it's showing you the same thing, but the top one that has colors is showing you the different amounts of colors in each one of the inks. If this were, you know, RGB or CMYK, or depending how you have it opened up in, most of these are in RGB. But then the levels one shows it to you in one white, so to say, claim. So it's easier to read. Because it's looking at this image as if this image was in black and white. So it's basically showing you that we have quite a few dark shadows, a lot of mid ones, a little bit of light, and then it goes woo, all the way up. That means it's blown out. Those are clipped highlights. You see how there's stuff going way up and to the right. So that's clipped. And those clipped highlights, unfortunately, are this area here. So if we try to darken anything, so I'm going to move this little slider, which is my black point. If I try to make it darker, then all the stuff that used to be deep gray is now turning black. So I'm going to push it out again. And if I want to lighten my highlights, I would grab the white point and move it in to make my white stuff whiter. And as you can see, everything is light, it's going lighter, but nothing is being fixed. But unfortunately, there's no way to go out that way. So what's all blown out already in here stays blown out. There's no way to bring in stuff that's not there. I can lighten the shadows, I can darken the shadows, which is this in between point, but you get to the point where there's just nothing else you can do. This is an example of just blown out. Can't fix, can't do anything about it. So so anyway, yeah, so as you can see, move things around all you want, but there's nothing to be done about the whites. You just can't go. You just can't make it darker and hope, because it was never there in the photograph to start with. Okay, so this was just to show you in a very basic and simple image what you can and cannot do, but you certainly cannot even begin to work on those blown out highlights. So now let's close this guy there. We don't need this levels because it's affecting this one, but we discovered there's nothing we can do. So we can just get rid of it. And how do you get rid of something you don't need? For those of you who like clicking and dragging, you can just grab this and drag it down to this little trash can right there. So I'm going to do that right now and drag all the way to the trash can and let go. And that deletes it directly. It's the easiest way to delete if you like clicking and dragging. On the other hand, if instead you want to, we're going to get rid of this layer that we've discovered. There's nothing we can do about this rose. It's no good. Can't bother processing it. So I'm going to also right click and delete layer, or you can also hit your delete or backspace key on your keyboard. But when you do it this way, it'll ask you something. Are you sure you want to delete it? And you can just say yes. It's just an extra little step. And then we're going to be left with this one rose, which we can see does have a way of being worked with, because even the highest highlights have some color. But now let's go and put in a levels on this one. So has everyone deleted your bad rows, your overexposed, your blown out rows? Good morning, Barbara.
Yes.
All right, so now we're going to go down and give another levels to this road this time. And in this case, you can see how we seem to have some clipped blacks over there. And it's probably these that have no detail. And by the way, I'm going to tell you this rose in my screen is almost at 100%. It's 98.67%. So I'm pretty much seeing it 1-to-1. But my whites are not clipping. See that? So that's good news. So if I were to want to lighten or darken my shadows, I can lighten them. And look what happens as I move. My shadows is the inner point, right? As I move to the left and try to lighten, this is not making the flower look good. I'm just showing you. Look what's happening here to the shadows. So that stuff that I'm forcing to happen by lightening these shadows, that's called noise. Okay. And it was hiding in the shadows. And it's this very speckled kind of grainy thing that your photos have, usually hiding in the dark to dark shadows, or even if the whole thing is very light, then in the shadow area, you'll see the noise much more. I'm going to go in and do what I just did by going down here and resetting this one. Okay, so you can reset So when you move something around, wait, because I'm going to move this out again. Then if you want to undo that change, you can go down here and hit that little backwards arrow that says reset. Okay. Now, when you instead move to the right and make things really dark, and you just want to see the before and after, it's not the reset, it's the eyeball with a little arrow. Then you click and you go before and after, and you let go. So it holds while you hold. Let me see the before, let me see the after. Okay, so of the things that you have here, the reset is the full up and down arrow. And this is just the, let me see it before. Okay, now let me see it now. And then let's reset again. Okay, so this is just showing you how to move these things around. I'm not yet making you make any particular corrections on the photo. And then the last one that we have here is the clipping layer. And did we do some clipping the other day? Clipping of layers? I think I showed you how to clip a layer. No, maybe I didn't. That I had you put your mouse in between. Okay. So why would you click a correction? It's to make this level appear and work only on this photo. So say you had two other photos levels, then this would affect all of them. But by clipping it to this one, so I'm going to click on this little clip. So then what, see how this gives you like a little downwards arrow. So now whatever I do here will affect this photo and nothing else. Okay. Now there's no other layers here, so it's unnecessary right now to do that, but it becomes very necessary to know how to clip an adjustment layer to your photo when you have multiple layers. So to unclip it right now, I could go ahead and turn this off again and on and off. So it's just a simple matter. Let's leave it off right now. As I said, we don't have any other layers, so it doesn't particularly matter. All right. So how you handle with that noise that I showed you when I darkened the shadows, if it's bugging you, if it's really prominent on your image, there's quite a few things that we can use to get rid of noise, although one of the best noise removers is actually in RAW. But the whole point is it would bug me if I were to do this to the photo, which I won't, because it completely ruins the image. So I don't need it. I just wanted to show you how it was hiding in the dark. So when you try to lighten it, it's those speckled dots that can give you a grainy texture. So now back to reset. Okay, so I've shown you a little bit of everything. One thing that I haven't shown you yet is how do we know to move or not to move? So remember what we had in RAW, which were these blue or dark lines that helped you see if things were getting too clipped. So that's what I was just doing. I'm holding down the Option or Alt key. So when I move these extreme ones, the white or the black, if I grab the white and I try to move it in, it's telling me as soon as you begin to see those little dots there, it's telling me that that is where the white is going to start clipping. Okay, and it's warning you that it's a problem. Now, another thing is that we already had some clipping going on, and we know that. Why? Because it, warning right there. In this red histogram, in the colorful one, we've had a little warning sign, like a triangle with an exclamation point from the very beginning. It's warning us that some of the whites here are clipped. So one of the ways to have that fixed automatically is to just click on that little warning sign and have it go away. And then Photoshop has made some adjustment to make sure that there's no more clipping happening there. Okay, so that little warning sign that you had there, if you click on it, I don't know if you noticed, but there was a little blink that happened in your histogram. It was minute. It was a tiny little bit, and it just showed us it's not there anymore. But now, if I hold on to this histogram and click on the furthest right, what's going to happen is that my white point, as I bring it that way to the left, it'll make that all of these pixels that are now very light will turn white because I'm carrying the white point into them. Okay, so my white point, this little white triangle, is going to mean as I move it to the left, then all of these pixels have turned actually white without detail. That would mean that this belly of this rose, which used to have a nice texture, is now white without detail. And I have, again, that little warning sign up there telling me, no, you're clipping some stuff, you're clipping some stuff. So anyway, if I were to click on that for it to get fixed again, it fixes it, but you got to the point that it can't really, it doesn't move this back. You can't bring back texture that's gone. So the only way to fix this kind of thing is to go and reset and just start from 0 again. All right. So now this image, I think the rose per se doesn't need much fixing. It's looking pretty perfect. In fact, that's the most you can push a white before you lose it. If I were to want to maybe darken my shadows, darken my other stuff, then I can choose, again, how these things work is this is the mid gray and this is black, right? So if I want all the pixels above this that this will point to, I want to make them mid gray. So from here to the left, these are getting darker and darker and darker until they get to black. From here to the right, these points are getting lighter and lighter and lighter until I get to white. So if I move my mid-gray point here, that means that my lighter tones are going to turn mid-gray. So that means I'm going to darken it. Okay, so if I wanted to darken the background a bit to have my white, my rose stand out a bit more, then I could move that to the right. To be careful not to lose too many of the details down here, but that's one way to darken the whole thing. Now notice I'm doing this to the entire image. The entire image is being affected and I don't want to lose this. All right, let's reset to 0. We're gonna ignore what this this layer. We're not going to use it again. But why is it happening to everything? Because we never selected anything. We never created a mask. Okay. So last week I showed you how to select things with all of these different shapes and tools. And one of them could have selected, many of them could have selected this rose perfectly well. And then we could have done changes of the rose. But right now, by having made the levels without having those selected, we're left with a blank mask. It's there, the mask got created, but we're not using it for anything. So we're going to affect it like we did a little bit with the cookies the other day by using our brushes. Okay, so we're going to darken a little bit this whole background here to make our image stand out, and maybe darken a little bit this bit of the rose to have a little bit more texture on it. So we're just going to paint our corrections on. So how do we paint our corrections on? We head over to the brush, and I did this at the very end of class last week. Some people had already had to go, so I'm going to do this again really gently. Head over to the brush, and there's so many brush looking things in there. Go ahead and just use the B for brush to make sure you grab the correct brush. Click on the keyboard B, because otherwise people tend to grab something other brush looking kind of tool. That's the true B brush. And then up here on the top, you have some choices to make. First of all, everyone start with opacity at 100%. The very top, flow 100%, like make sure everything is the same as me up there. And then the size of your brush, I've told you before, you could choose it. You could go to this guy right there and then make the size of your brush bigger or smaller. But this means nothing to me because I can't tell how big that brush is just by moving these pixels around. And on the other hand, once I put my mouse in front of the image, now I can really see how big my brush is. So instead of using that slider, I much prefer to use my keyboard, and that's the bracket keys that we've been talking about. Sorry, you need to say, you need to, if you try to use the bracket now when that's up, it starts writing in there. So you don't want that. You need to get out of this mode before you use that bracket. So I'm going to use the hard bracket keys back and forth to make it bigger or smaller. But the one that I like using here, and you could, there's a shortcut for it too, on the Mac or on the PC. But I'm going to go ahead and whoops. Didn't mean to go up, but it's easier for me for you to visualize the hardness of a tool will make you see the fuzziness of it. Okay, so if it's very, very, very soft, it would be hardness 0%. No hardness. And if it's very, very sharp, it would be hardness 100%. It would be a very, very sharp thing. So let's start with that 50% ish somewhere around the 50% hardness so that we can see how it goes one way or the other. And now we're going to select our mask, make sure that the mask is still what's selected versus the properties over here. Make sure it's the mask. And once that is selected, the next thing we need to know is look at our colors. So down here, what color is my brush going to paint with? So it's going to paint with whatever color is set in the foreground. The foreground is that top box. The background is that bottom box. So the brush paints with the foreground color. So in this case, it means that it's going to paint with white. I shouldn't have clicked on that, but a lot of you people will. So if you click on that, what happens is your color picker pops up. And if you don't see it, it probably popped up somewhere there. That's not what we want to do. We don't want to change the color of this brush. So if this pops up, say cancel. And this happens a lot. People tend to keep wanting to go there and click on that. And then if this is hiding out there, you go, it's not working for me. It's not working for me. So notice that when you click on that, this opens up automatically and nothing will happen until you say cancel. You really need to cancel. What you need to do instead, if you don't have white and black, there's two little choices here. And this is really tiny. So watch. Above the colors, you have a teensy little black and white thing right there. Click on that. Say that perchance you had a different tone in there. I'm just gonna invent that you had, that maybe you did have two different grays or something like that. So the way to return to black and white is to go to that little thing and boom, click there and then black and white, okay? And then if you need to flip between black and white, you click on this little double-headed arrow and you click each time it flips. See how it goes foreground black, foreground white, foreground black, foreground black. Now, as usual, I try not to use the tools on the bar so much. So let me show you another way to go. To do this, there's a faster way, which is the letter key X on your keyboard. So watch X, 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 X. Can you see how that's shifting? X, 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 X. So we're going to need to shift from black to white a lot. Okay. So it's really good to know this shortcut. All right. So once you know how to get black or white, now let's decide which one do I need to paint with, black or white. If I head over here to my, mask, which by now, somehow I seem to have, let me go to my history because it does look like I've brushed it. It should be white. So if I go over here, I'll discover that I have to paint on a white surface. So if I paint white on white, am I going to see anything? No. So basically just looking at the color you have makes you decide that, oops, looks like I need black paint, right? So let's switch with the X to black paint in the foreground. And now with everything set up here at 100% and whatnot, let's see what happens. If I go ahead and, oh, I hadn't changed my levels. I'm sorry, nothing's going to happen yet. I apologize. I forgot nothing. I usually don't do this with levels. Nothing's going to happen because we haven't affected our levels yet. So I need to have us change our levels. So one step back. I usually do this with a color or something like that, but by doing it with levels, we first need to affect the levels. So go back to the properties portion of it, double click, so we get our properties back, and let's make this background area, or the whole thing, because we don't have anything masked. Let's make the whole thing be actually pretty dark. So I'm going to make everything pretty dark. Okay, so now I am seeing this rose looking way too dark, and it's fake, I know, but that's just so that we can understand what's happening with our layers. So I grabbed this middle point, the mid shadows, and I made it go really dark. So once you've got that, close that properties, and now let's head back to the levels mask. And now you can really see the effect of the brush. So go back, if you've left the brush, click on the B for brush again, make sure you have the black as your color. And now watch for a second, just watch my screen. I'm going to go ahead and drag. And what I've made a little hole in the mask. See, there's my mask. I've made a black. And you're like, no, you didn't make it black. That's pretty light. Nope. What's happening is that my mask is white. I've made a black hole in it, which means I am seeing through to the original color. So if I start painting white, that's my original background. Remember, if I turn this off and on, what I'm seeing here is the original background. I'm cutting a hole through my mask. Literally, if I put a piece of paper in front of my face and you don't see me and I cut a hole in it, you'll see my original skin that was under the mask, my original eye, right? So that's what we're doing. We're making a hole through the mask when we paint black onto the white mask. And so now if I were to want to see my original rose and I paint over my rose, now I'm seeing the original rose, okay? And so now I'm just kind of doing this general drawing. Oh, I'm not lifting my mouse and I'm just kind of not being very precise or anything. Just showing you that I've made a big rose-ish shaped hole in here. So I'm seeing my original rose and a little bit of my original background right there. Now, notice that the hole that I'm making is a little bit fuzzy edged. Okay, and that's that hardness that we changed. I'm going to go ahead and change to 100% hardness, which is very, very, very hard brush. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to show you the difference of trying to make that hole with a very hard brush. See how sharp the edge of my brush is now in comparison to how soft it was before? Can you tell? So if I were to try to do this, I would invariably have a very hard time making this fit correctly. Most of the times we try to use a soft brush, but how soft? So that one there was a 50% brush. Let's go ahead and move my brush hardness to actual 0. As soft as a fuzzy as a brush can be. So now I have a very, very soft brush. And look at how soft my edges are. They're so soft. They bleed for a long time. They just kind of go really gentle. Okay. So sometimes you want the softest brush possible. Now you're not going to see much change here because over here we had already a very dark background. So that's why I'm showing you the stuff here in this very light background. Now, by now, maybe you guys have done so much that you might not have too much space left because again, this was already black and you try to add some black here, nothing's happening. But look at how I'm fixing, one second, I'm fixing this sharp edge that I made there. If I pass this soft brush over it, see how now it softly bleeds into it and it looks much more natural. Yeah, who was asking me something?
Andrea.
Yes,
So,
Andrew.
well, first I can't remember the step you just gave us, the very first thing where we were, I don't know. I'm having a big circle and my histogram's in white and I can't do anything.
Okay.
So I missed the first step after.
All right, it's possible that you didn't move your levels yet. So double click on this portion of your levels.
Where?
Over
Okay.
here.
All right.
Okay. Open up your properties and then move this middle point
Uh-huh.
all the way kind of to the right over there.
Okay.
Okay. So now your whole image should have turned pretty dark.
Yes.
All right. And now grab your brush and make sure that you
Okay.
have black on the top.
So
Right.
my brush has a little stop sign. It won't let me do anything.
You need to leave this properties area and you need to go and click on your mask now.
When you,
Click on
okay.
your mask. And then make sure you have black on your brush and then your brush will work. Yeah, so what she was talking about, guys, is that if you're in the properties area, see how the brush says, nah, not doing anything. That's the little forbidding sign that she was talking about because you're on the area. You need to be in the mask side of it. Is that working for you now?
Yes.
Okay. So now I've uncovered all this different stuff, but I didn't really mean to uncover this background. I only wanted to uncover the flower. So can I fix this? Yes, I can. I can just switch my background color from black to white. So I'm going to hit the X again. Now I'm going to paint with white and I'm going to go over any area that has black on it and I'm going to paint with white and I'm basically fixing that hole. So if you look at my mask, I am now painting white over the black area. And look at that. See, I'm eating away at that black. I am now seeing my original darkness again. So I'm fixing all those holes, so to say. It's like I'm patching them up by painting with white. Does that make sense? So now if I look, I've only left a little bit, and I keep looking at this mask, and you can see that I've left only the rose has some black over it. Now I'm going to start painting over the rose. And now by the time I'm done, I've got a pretty big one, got very little black left, and I'm going to keep painting over the rose. And basically I have undone all the holes that I made with black, and my mask is white again. Now let's play with that again. I'm going to make black by hitting the X, and I'm going to make a hole again in my mask, bringing back the original flower. All right, so now back and forth, and this is the way you work with masks. This is originally the question that I believe Monica, not sure if it was Monica that you asked, how do you, I think it was Monica, how do you fix your masks, right? So when one of the ways to fix your mask is by painting on the mask. So first of all, by now you have some mask on, some mask off. Let's go see that mask, because I'm talking about the mask, but it's this little white and black box over there. Can you actually visually see it ever? Yes, you can. If you click on the option or alt key, hold on to it down, and then single click on your mask. Now you're actually seeing only that mask over here. And now you can really see what's happening. How I'm painting white over black gives me back my white. And if I instead flip over with the X to paint with black, now I am painting black on my mask. Now this that we were seeing happening here, we're seeing in big, right? The only problem is we can't see our original rose. So when you're seeing the mask, it's really hard to do anything correct because you're not seeing the image. Does that make sense?
Yes, except the alt key isn't giving me the same thing you have.
The alt key doesn't give it to you. You hold down your alt key and then click on your mask, and then you will see it. Hold down the alt key and then click on your mask. And now you're seeing your mask. And now try painting with white, and then with black, and then with white over again to hide the black. It's like you eliminate the black by painting with white. Now, the one use that this has is, see how I've left little patches of gray or weird stuff? So I can do this and then come and just make sure I catch all the little bits and pieces that I've been left hanging out. If my intention is that everything should be really white, I've left a little bit of pieces that I'm painting over it with white. But other than that, it's not very useful as far as working on the image, because I have no idea where the rose is if I were to try to be fixing it, right? So I wanted to go ahead and clean up your mask as much as you can with a big brush. And remember, if you need to make the brush get bigger to do this faster, go to your bracket keys, and then with just a couple of swipes of the white brush, you should clean up all of your mask. All right. And then let's get a slightly smaller brush again, because I want to show you something about the mask, about colors. I'm going to hit the X so that on the white mask, we can pay with black. So now at this place, what we should be is everyone should have a white mask again. Again, if nothing else, make a really big brush, switch to the white down there, and then just drag it all over. And very quickly, you'll have gotten rid of anything you've done. And now make your brush smaller again. For that, I'm using the bracket keys, the ones that are on the keyboard to the right of the letter P. That's where you find your 2 hard bracket keys. That's how I'm. And then switch to the black here on your foreground color. And when you're there, give me a green yes, or show me a finger thumb up if I'm seeing you, which is only 3 of you guys that I'm seeing you. Make sure everyone has a white mask ready to go. All right. You have a white mask, Carrie? Perfect. Andrea, yeah.
Yes.
All right. Gustavo? Megan? Oh, okay. All right, so now watch. With, now I'm going to show you a little bit about that hardness and the grayscale. So I'm going to put my hardness at 0. So what does that mean? A very, 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 very soft brush. Yeah. And now I'm going to make a line right here. One line, one little line. And then I'm gonna. Okay, I've muted you, Andrea, so that your dog. So if you need to speak, just so you know, you've been muted. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab the hardness and let's put it, we already know what 100% will do, which is, you know, really, really hard. But look at what I'm trying to show you is, look at the different size of what we just did. And in fact, the brush was the same exact size, right? So there wasn't that I changed the brush size, but my hard brush, as you can see, shows me exactly the circle of my brush. But when I went really soft, what's happening is that the brush is the same size, but half of it in the middle is going black and the rest is a gentle gradient all the way down to nothing. So it is occupying the same space, but it's just that that gradient is that soft area. So now let's head back to the soft, make back to 100% soft or 0% soft hardness. So very, very soft. And what I'm trying to say is that when you paint, the parts of this brush are going, so now click and hold and look at my brush. As you paint, the center point of what I'm painting is what's getting dark and black, but the edges are getting a gentle, lighter gray until it becomes almost white, which then becomes transparent, right? So that's what's happening with this brush. So when you affect an image and you gently want to lighten something, you got to make sure that the circle point, and you have a soft brush, is barely affecting it. And the middle where your mouse is touching is where it's going purely black. So it's truly hiding whatever's in the center of your circle, where right the circle of your mouse is touching the part that goes black, but everything else around it will go softly less change. So be aware of that. I'm going to erase these two changes here, and I want to show you one other thing. So now I'm going to head over here and let's do one more thing. Let's get black again on our color. Let's once again make a long line. This time make a long line. And now we're going to go up here to the opacity, and we're going to change the opacity. And what it means is the opacity of this brush, let's go down to like 75%-ish, somewhere around there. And now I'm going to draw a line over here. And I'm making a line. And as you can see, I'm getting a dark gray. I'm still painting with black. But by having chosen 75% opacity, a dark gray is showing up. What does a dark gray mean? Is that it's going to let some of your effect through and some of it not through. Let's go to about 50%-ish on opacity for the next one. And let's draw a lighter gray. I'm going to go to about 25%. And I have an even lighter gray. And then I'm going to go down to say 5%, and there's an even lighter gray. It's almost hard to see. Okay, but it is there. So what happens is that depending on the opacity of your effect, you can paint it on really thickly or really lightly. Okay, so depending on the effect that you want, instead of changing the color of the ink that you're, so to say, painting with, you just need to change the opacity of your paint, and this will affect it differently. So now, another thing that I wanted to show you, so that's the effect of the different opacities. I'm gonna head over and give you 100% opacity again, but this time we're going to change the hardness from 100%. That's the last one we did. We're gonna move it down to about 75%-ish over here. And so this one is about 75% hardness. And I'm gonna just, so this is a line that's a little bit fuzzy, much better than that one, that 100% one. Then I'm gonna go over here in hardness, and I'm gonna go to about 50% in hardness. And then that's, so very hard, 50%, 75%, 50% hardness. With 50% hardness is what we were doing with the rose earlier. And I'm gonna go to about 25% hardness. And I'm gonna do that there. And then finally, 0% hardness, which is what we started with at the very top. And that's down here. Okay. So that basically is the changes you can make in your brush. You can make it softer or harder according to the needs. Rarely do you ever need a perfectly hard 100%. But the moment you break the 100%, the moment you go ahead and put even 95%, like you're basically putting 95%, it's already becoming, well, no, not 95%, 90%. By 90%, you begin to have a nicer line. Yeah, by 90%, you can have a bit of a softness. I usually don't go above 87%. So even when you want an actual hard brush, sorry, not 87, 80, 85% seems to be my max, that I feel like the line is kind of doing what I want it to do. So that's in there. So there's an 85% brush. So still a bit jaggedy because of those lines, but it's smoother. And then you go down to 75%. All right. So any questions about what I'm showing you? We're going to go and apply it to real images right now, but you need to see how this looks, what your brush is going to look like to know what to choose. Ooh, I didn't notice that Vera has been waiting to come in. Hopefully she hasn't been waiting for too long. All right, so hi Vera, sorry if I kept you waiting too long. I didn't notice. I didn't look at the waiting room, so hopefully you're still there. Okay. All right, what was I saying? Okay, so this is what all of this looks like. Now, to see how this looks again on the image, it's going to be a bit hard. The levels that we have doesn't necessarily make much of a difference here in the dark areas, but let's stop seeing our mask. How do we stop seeing our mask? By the way, this would be a good thing to do a screenshot of right now so that you can have a register of your brushes going less and less in a percentage in opacity, and so that you can go softer or harder with pure black. All right, and now when you're done doing that screenshot, then you can go and do again, Alt, hold down the Alt and then click on your mask again. And when you do that, you can see your image. So again, Alt click shows you the mask, click again, and it shows you the image. Click shows you the mask, click shows you the alter option for the PC and for the Mac. And then a single click, you see the mask and see the image. Now, we don't normally see the mask. Rarely would we need to see the mask, because now this is when we can actually alter the image by seeing the actual shape of what we want to paint over. Okay, so now let's go ahead and turn the eyeball off of this one. There we go, turn the eyeball off. It's there, but we're using it just to see the different choices of brush. And now let's go back, select the layer, and let's go and do, let's go make a mask that we can do something about with this image. And so we're going to go back to one of the color ones. But this time, instead of hue saturation, which is what we've used before to change the color of the image, there's a different one. I'm going to show you, which is this one called solid color, where you get to choose a color that you want this to be. And then we're going to paint it on. So I'm going to hit solid color. Okay, I'm having an issue here. This is right. So you go and choose a color that you want this rose to be. So maybe you want this rose to be green, blue, pink. Since blue is such a weird color for roses, I'm going to make my rose be blues while I'm here. I'm going to choose a deep blue. And I'm going to say, okay. Now, here's the problem. My color fill is covering. So say if you didn't like this blue, you can double click on this again, which is the properties of it, and choose a different color and go over to the red or do whatever you want. I'm going to just leave it as blue. But now we're going to go and blend this. So I'm going to go up here to where it says normal. See it in above the layers, you see the word, right? There's kind and then there's normal. Click on normal. And these are blends. Blends are when you blend one layer onto another. So we've got this big old blue background and we're going to blend it to somehow make that image combine with this one. And there's lines here for different types of blends, right? So depending, this darkens it in general. These lightens them in general. And this is like a bit of a contrast. And then these are some others. So each one of these does something weird or different. So if I just want to change the color of my rose, I might want to go ahead and notice that in this case, is my rose changing color? And this set here, my rose isn't changing much color, because this set, what it does is it's ignoring the light colors and it's only changing the color of the darkness. Versus up here, my dark stuff is staying about the same, but it's changing the color of my rose. So you kind of have to see what the effects are of each one of these and see which one works better or worse. So then you can go over here and see the combination and contrast of different ones. And if you chose a different color, it'll be different. But what it's doing is combining this layer of color that you just chose to whatever you have down there in the background. And I'm kind of liking, for some reason or another, this bright yellow rose that I've made right here. I wasn't intending to make it yellow, but I like it when I combine that blue to that pink under this thing called subtract. I kind of like what's happening to the color of that rose. Anyway, so settle on one that you like, settle on one that you enjoy what's happening. Here, when I go down to color, the very bottom one, I'm actually using that blue color applied as best as it can to this rose. And what that means is the stuff that's really dark gray or black before is going dark blue. The stuff that was very, very gentle light pink is going very, very, very gentle light blue. Does that make sense? So that's the bottom one. I'm going to have some fun and I'm going to go to the subtract because I'm kind of enjoying that. So whatever works that you like for your rose. I don't want to see everyone choosing my same blue and my same blend. I just want you guys to play with something that came up that you like. And if you go, none of these are working, just double click on the color and change the color to something else. And then when you do that, you might discover, the subtract now looks kind of weird. It doesn't look fun here on this one. Maybe I have to change it to something else, right? I'm going to leave it there for that combo. It's kind of fun, but the moment you change things on your color, it might change the blend tone that you want to use. And now I'm going to say, well, I like the effect on the color of my rose, but I want the rest to go back to being the color that it used to be. I don't want to color everything. So I can go into my brush, make sure I have, what color should I have if I want to hide this from the effect of the layer? I want to hide. I think, Barbara, you're trying to talk to me, but your sound is off because I hear you, but maybe you were talking to someone else. Okay, got it. All right, so then if I want to paint on, basically, if I want to paint on white, black, that's a no-brainer. So I look over here and I've got my black on, I check my brush, and I want a relatively hardish brush when I'm going to go to be near the rose, but not necessarily too hard. And first I'm going to tackle all the big stuff, so maybe I can make a bigger brush to start with. I'm going to make a really big brush, and I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that I'm at 100% because I completely want to get rid of the effect. And now I'm going to start painting the general background to bring back what I had before. And I also want to bring back the green of my rose because otherwise it wouldn't be very believable, right? To have that color. So I want to bring those back. So I'm painting in very, very broad swaths with black all across this background. And I don't care too much about the details because I'm not near my flower yet. And I've just brought back in all that stuff. And then when I'm ready to get closer to my color, which I'm about to get ready to do, and here I'm going to go ahead and make my brush a little bit smaller. And then I'll have to decide what hardness is good enough. And if you go too soft, then depending on the choice that you've made, it might look fake. So I don't know. I'm going to start with 50%-ish, maybe a little bit. I'm going to go pretty soft. There's not much difference between my yellow and the background, so I can get away with not so soft. What's hard is when you have a very different color. So I'm going to go with that. And now I'm going to start to see if I can get near to my rose, painting it.
Yeah, my background isn't coming back to the natural one. It's like blue and white.
Are you, share your screen because I don't know how to tell what's happening until I see what's happening.
Hold on.
Meanwhile, everyone keep working on your images. You might need to change the size of your brush a lot. Okay, so you are not painting on your mask, you're painting on your color. See on your layer, what's getting white or black is your color over there. So go ahead and it should be on your mask. And the mask is that white box that's on the right, not the box that's on the left. Do you see what I mean? Put your mouse, go to the layer that you're working on, which is not that one, you're working on the next one. Yeah, that is the color. And on the right side is your mask. So you've been painting on your color, not on your mask. So you need to undo, Command Z a few times.
Whoops.
Good. And now go to the right to the mask. And that's what you need to paint. But first you need to blend your color in or you can't see your shape. So go up to the word normal. Up to the word normal. And then find a blend that might work. And again, depending on your color. Okay, and now go to your mask. Good. And now start painting in the area that you don't want. And maybe you want your color or the background to be bright green and your rose to be the original rose. I mean, you guys might want to switch what you are masking in or out, right? It's your choice. It's something you're doing right now.
So how do you
now it's working.
Color?
What's that?
How do you change that color if I don't want it to be normal?
You have to. So here's the thing, the color fill adjustment layer that you just made, and guys, this explanation is for everyone, not just for Andrea, to understand what's happening is that you just made an adjustment layer. No, leave that there. Go down to your layer for a second, to the color fill adjustment layer. I'm pointing something out to everyone. So the color fill, move up one. That is the layer. These are adjustment layers. You're adjusting something. You're adjusting color in this case. So this color has been applied with no mask, no selection. So your entire mask is white. What that means is your entire layer is being affected by this color. It looks different because the background was very different color than the rose, but this green color, when mixed with, click on that layer, please, the color fill, to see what effect you chose. Click on that layer. When set to the blend mode called difference, then this is the effect it's producing. If you want to stop this effect from some portion of your image,
you need to go and put black on the mask in the area that you don't want this effect. So if what you're affecting is you like the color of the rose, then you need to eliminate your background. So on the mask, move to the right. Click on the mask. So on the mask now, you have to go and paint black on the background. If instead you want the background to remain green and your rose to go back to the original rose, then you have to go and paint your rose. Does that make sense with black? So that
Yeah.
the black is what remains with. So that's what I mean about you guys can choose to do one or the other. Perfect. I'm going to stop your share now. Before I share my screen, does anyone want to show me anything? Any questions? Because you've all been working meanwhile. Now, you might have noticed that this could have been easier had we masked this rose first, right? Like with a selection. Like, why am I trying to do this with my mouse when I could have easily just made a selection of this rose like we did with all those paintings that we did the first day, right? So just trying to show you different ways of working with masks, and mainly because most of the time, in this case, you would have probably done a selection for this rose instead of painting the whole thing. But then if the mask hadn't been perfect and it had to be fixed, then you would have had to do this to fix it, because this is the one and only way to fix a mask is to correct it by painting it one way or another. Does anyone else have anything to share before I share my screen again? Nope. Okay. Let me clear your feedback. I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so now I'm going to continue painting. Now notice that I have a softish brush and it seems to be, now this is why I always say it's better if you have a pen tool to draw with instead of a mouse. It's kind of hard to do this by hand. Oh, it kind of works. Now watch over here. I kind of went over the edge and see how I got some light tones into my rose again. So how do I fix that? I switch back to white, and now I fix it by going over it with white. Does that make sense, you guys? So,
Yes.
and if you go over, so if I go over, I just have to switch to the other color and back out of that color again and paint again, and so on and so forth. So you just go in and keep fixing. So when you make a mistake or you go in too much, you just go and put the opposite color in again. Here I left a little light edge. How about here? Now I'm going to leave, that's the pink. So I'm going to bring this green again. So by the time I'm done with this one, it might look
Roll us up.
like this flower. Was actually yellow. Fixing those edges, yikes. So remember, you're gonna have to need to make your brush much tinier to get into the little edges and little places, and then much bigger again. And you might find that sometimes when it's smaller or bigger, you might need to change the smoothness, like you might need more percentage hardness or less. So here, now that I made that little edge that's kind of weird, I'm going to go back in with a tiny brush with the other color and paint it back in so I get the perfect edge. Now, when your brush is tinier, the edge seems sharper because there's less space for that softness to happen. So be careful, because if you have a tiny brush, you might need to go make it much softer than you normally would. And the most important thing is to always remember to be on your mask, never to be on your actual flower, because if you turn your mask on and off, you want to make sure that you haven't like painted black or white on your flower. So here you go. I've kind of finished making my rose bright yellow. And I did it without having to make a selection of my color. Now, I might think the effect is a bit too strong. I can change the opacity of my effect over here a little bit and make it a pale yellow. That looks a little bit more like a color that a rose would actually be, right? From that to that. I think the color I had originally was too strong. So what did I do? I could have changed the tone of the blue, or I gave some lightness, some more opacity to the actual layer. So here's my color fill effect. Okay, watch my screen. Color fill effect. I chose a very bright yellow. And there are some roses that are this way and they're gorgeous, but there are not many out there. So say that I wanted a bit less intense effect. So how do I mute the effect of this whole layer a little bit? I can make this layer be a bit less opaque. So I go to this opacity over there and I just bring the effect down a little bit until I get to the color of yellow that I think might be reasonable. I've seen a rose like this out in the world, I'm sure many times. And now there we go. I've got a yellow rose that's instead of a pink rose. How's it working for you guys? Any questions? You want to show me your work? If you've done and you're finished, please post it in Padlet. And if not, ask me questions. I'm not seeing any yet in Padlet, so I guess you guys still working on it. I'm going to go ahead and post mine in Padlet. So do a how do you call it? Icebreaker. So I'm going to post there. So there's mine. All right, so if no one has any questions or has anything to show, give me a yes when you're done, when you're totally done. And by the way, I could, now that I have it masked, one more thing I could do right now is I could go and change the blend mode. So the blend mode that I chose for this was subtract, but I could go and say, I wonder now that it's masked, what would have happened if I go to color burn, right? Or I'm changing, and in the end, oh, one thing that this is showing me, look at this, how funny. In this linear dodge, what I'm noticing that my mask isn't very clean because I can see those little bits happening there. So the one good thing, I'm going to go back to subtract. The one good thing about seeing your mask is that I'm going to go clean it up. I'm going to go option click and see that's what was being shown. And so I'm going to go ahead and now grab a brush so that I can clean up my mask. Okay.
How did you do that again?
So option or alt click to see
Okay.
it. And then I go, oh yeah, I can see how I should actually go and fix this a little bit. And so, whoops, I chose the wrong color. So I'm gonna go back to black as my brush color. And now I can fix places that I had kind of left behind that I didn't mean. So that's what another thing the mask is good for seeing it is to do that kind of cleanup on stuff that maybe because of the tones you didn't see it, and then click option click again, and that gives you back your shape. And then go and see if perchance something else might have worked or not with a color that you chose that you might have liked. But I think I like best in this case my
Come on.
the blue one. I think my subtract is still the best color for this one, for the blue that I chose. And I'm going to go ahead and save as. Rose turned yellow is what I called it, but basically what we did is brush masking, so to say. I'm going to call it that. It's masking, but using your brush instead of a previous selection. And the main goal for me, for you to do this is to learn how to turn your mask into black or white, and to fix the things that might not be. So basically over here, if you're trying to fix this edge and you're like, what happened? And you look and you go, something really wrong is happening. First thing you need to do is, of course, undo. But the first thing you need to do is check. I don't know, you tell me what's happening on my screen. Can someone tell?
You have the blue line.
I have a
Well-
blue line. Why did that blue line show up? What's wrong? This is a typical mistake people make, and I really want you guys to look at my layers and tell me what I did wrong.
Layers.
Repainting the mask.
No, I'm not painting the mask. It's the
No,
opposite. That's the
You're-
problem. I'm
you're
painting my
you're painting the blue color
on
on
my
that.
pixels. Yeah, in
Right.
fact, what do you mean blue color? Yes, look, when I chose the color for my mask, then the color here on the left turned blue. And so as soon as my mask is not on, my brush was blue.
Blue.
I'm literally, this is graffiti.
Painting on the flower.
I'm spray painting over my flower. I'm ruining it. So be very, very careful. Okay. Because if you don't know what you're doing and not being aware, it's really important to make sure that you're on your mask and not on the flower, or not on the actual color fill like Andrea had, where she was painting the color. So you just really make sure you're on your mask, and then you go in and you fix or unfix or change or do whatever you need to do to make this work.
Diana, I have the little
Yes.
marching ants on my picture and around it.
Okay, so that means that somehow you made a selection. So go ahead and say Command D to undo or deselect, Command or Control D,
Okay, thank you.
and then you can keep working. So why don't you want a selection, guys? Is because say that I have a selection, I'm gonna have a selection here. See how I made a selection in this area? I don't know if you can see it. Make it in the darker area. So I made a selection over there. Watch. If I were to try to be painting something here and see how it only works within my selection, it
Yes,
just doesn't, so if you happen to have, so I'm gonna undo that, Control Z, and undo that selection. Be careful, because sometimes you have like one little pixel has been selected right there. See? You can barely see it. And sometimes if it's really busy, you can't even see it. So then you're trying to paint and you're like, oh, it's not working. Nothing's happening. My life is good. My mask is selected. Why is something not working? So if something truly is like not responding, it's because you might not notice you have a little selection. So in your case, Andrea, you saw it, but sometimes you don't see it. So I always recommend doing a cleaning, a Control Command D, undo any selection. If I go to the fact that if I go to select, the deselect is lit, that means there's something to deselect. But I don't even bother doing all that. I just do Control D, and then I start painting and I go, phew, I had something selected. So somehow or another you had made a little selection and it was just not letting, you're not painting inside of that little minuscule selection. And so it just does nothing. Okay, so that's another one of those troubleshooting things to turn off, to clean, deselect everything. All right, how's it going, guys?
good.
Yeah,
So if I want it now to upload it, I go to Padlet, correct?
yeah, but not the whole file, the screenshot of it, but yeah,
Right.
perfect.
I have a question. Can I share my screen
Of course,
to show?
go ahead. Okay. I don't hear you, so if you're saying something, I don't know what
Sorry.
you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
See how the masking here around this little leaf is a little hard. So if I would want to make this kind of a soft effect.
So you want it to turn blue, but not,
Yes, I don't want to have a
Mhm.
hard line. I want to have kind of like a soft line.
well, if it's
I'm
about
not
the
even sure that's a
line,
good idea, but
yes, if it's about the
see-
line, then you have to go and make your brush softer. But it's about the effect. You want it to have less effect, then you have to bring down the opacity of your brush.
okay. So I could just go to this edge and just kind of Fudge with the opacity.
fudge with the edge to make the line harder or softer to the
Uh-huh.
hardness of the brush, and fudge with the opacity of the brush when you want to make it less or more of an effect. So if you want
Like right
less
now,
of
I
this
think-
effect-
Yeah.
Yeah, go
Like
ahead.
right now, I think at this part, it really shows that I did some masking, whereas the rest is kind of, well, actually not as okay.
Yeah, well, that's because
It
leaves
could
are
be
not,
better.
leaves are not supposed to be green. So in my blue, I mean, it's fine for
Right.
the flower to be blue. Many times they are dyed that way or whatnot, but the leaves don't change color. So you might want to take the mask off of the leaf. I
that's a
took the
good
mask,
idea.
I took the mask off of my
Okay.
leaf so that
Okay.
they show green personally. Now, you could be
Sure.
trying to do something that's a fantasy, in which case, yeah, but now I want to say that up on the top layer, I'm noticing
Yes.
above your rose,
Yeah, here.
I still see blue, like on the top
Right.
layer mostly, I still see that the background's turning blue. So I would go back and clean up
Right.
that background a little bit, okay? And in that little
It's very
notch-
interesting. I see it on the shared screen when I look at the one where I
Oh.
just zoom. I don't see it on the one I'm
Yeah.
working at. So I'm probably
And
having
if
it.
you're
dark.
doubtful, then if you're doubtful, you could also, because I'm seeing even where your mouse is right now, I'm seeing some blue in the background. But that's
Yes,
hard
I
to
s-
see.
yeah.
You might want to then look at your mask. That's when it's good to take a
Right.
peek at your mask by doing an option click on your
Right,
mask,
right.
and then you can see that
Mhm.
there's some weirdness going on.
Okay,
right.
perfect.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Good, thanks for sharing.
Deanna, I need a really quick, how I get to Padlet again. I did my,
Oh, that's true. I usually give you guys the give me a second while I give you the link. And there it is. It's in the chat.
Diana, can you show me after the
Yes.
mask, how do you change the rose color? I missed that step.
All
Is
right. The rose color changed because of the kind of
The
adjustment
backtrack.
layer that I chose.
Oh,
I
so
chose a color.
after that, you cannot
fill.
change again.
You can, yeah, I can go to my color right now, double click the color.
Mhm.
Let me go here and I can say that instead of blue, I wanted to make this green. And then
Uh-huh.
even though I'm choosing green here, because I'm still doing the subtract difference, then a different thing is happening. So I can say, well, what if I give it a red mask or an orange mask? Then it's turning blue. Because subtract is kind of giving me, I guess, from what I can tell, the opposite complementary tones or something like that.
Mm,
That seems to be what that effect is giving me, right? So even though I'm trying to change it, even though I'm choosing a blue, it's not giving me, or in this case, say that I go and try to choose a yellow. It's not giving me a yellow photo, it's giving me a purple. So it's doing the complementary, not the complementary, what is the name? Complementary is when it's like the opposite. There's another name. I'm kind of seeing that if I get yellow, I'm getting blue. If I get blue, I get yellow. That's the, I'm forgetting my technical names. Okay. So that's how you can keep changing the color that you've chose by clicking here and changing it. That said, that's based on having the subtract. Had I had a different dissolve here, say had I had, I don't know, a linear burn, then that blue is giving me a pink purple. So then if I double click and I choose green, then I'm getting a bit of a yellow green, you know, so it depends on what effect you're looking at. Okay. So the blend modes really change everything. Once you've settled on a color, that blend mode matches that color. But if I change my blend mode, maybe I need to change my color, et cetera, et cetera. That's the way color fill works. Now, the good thing about color fill is that it completely changed the rose, but it didn't like fill it with a flat color. Everything is now, you know, yellow. It modulated to all of the different tones of the original petal. When it was really light, this stayed light. When it was really dark, it went dark. And that's the beauty of color fill. So this is what you do to colorize a black and white photo. You give a color for skin. So while some people are still working on that one, Let me give you an example. I'm gonna open this guy here. And say that I wanted to colorize this person's clothes. So maybe I want to colorize her dress, right? I'm going to color her dress. So I'm going to go choose a solid color. And maybe I want her dress to be, I don't know, it's going to have to be a deep color because it's a very, maybe she had a, what kind of color dress? Usually had a purple dress. I don't know, people wore purple in those times. So maybe she had a purple dress. So then I'm going to go and try to find trying to see which one works best for her dress. Looks like I need to choose a different color. This is too dark. So I'm choosing a color that's going to work for her dress, right? So I'm going around looking for tones and I'm just paying attention to her dress. That's all I'm doing. Somehow I kind of had the original idea of some kind of olive green, and I think I was probably right. Okay. And then when I've chosen the color that I want her dress to be, which is this color, then I'm going to invert my mask. I've shown you that before, you guys.
Mhm.
So I'm going to do Command or Control I, right? And now I'm going to grab a brush. What color should I paint in my mask right now?
Right?
If my mask is black, I need to paint white, right? So you look at the color of your mask. Now I'm going to grab a white brush and I'm going to start painting it on her dress. Does that make sense, what I'm doing? It's the opposite of what we did with the flower, that we took away the background. Here, I'm adding the color to her dress.
How did you add that filter again, or screen where you could do the color and flip between the two?
Okay, so I put the same color fill that I did before. So let me
No,
do
but
this
how
again.
did you add that layer?
Okay, so I went down to this round adjustment layers of all type and kinds you get from here. And there's all these different adjustment layers. And I chose the one called solid color. And that creates this solid color layer that I had to choose a color for. So this time I'm gonna leave it in blue just because. Okay, so now there you go. See how that's been created? And now I get to blend it in one way or another to the image that's underneath. I had chosen something for the, yeah, I'm going to choose that one now for the dress. I don't know. But the problem is that it's masking the entire image and I really only want her dress. So I'm going to inverse this to black, Option I, Command I. And now I'm going to paint only with white over her dress so that her dress turns into whatever color I just chose. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yes.
Yes.
And so
Well,
I'm
I-
slowly, and then I can go paint her face, and it's time to give a break. I can go paint everything that I, you know, her hair, the guy's dress, his little stars, his little awards. By the time you're done, you are going to have a colorized, which is never the same as natural color, but you'll have a colorized image. Okay. Now I went over her hand here, which should certainly not be turning. Which certainly not, but anyway, so I'm doing this rather quickly just to kind of show you guys the effect, but it's going over the chair. But over here, when it did go over the chair, and I can just shift to black and correct that by getting rid of that from that area. Okay, so however not completely ready she is, you're getting the idea, right? I have to find out here where her body ends and where doesn't, but I'm just shifting from black to white, from black to white. And then I think it's a bit too intense, so I'm going to bring it down, and that makes it much prettier. Now she looks like she's wearing a pretty beautiful dress. I wasn't very precise with my masking yet, but that's okay, because then you do it to the, then you add a different one. So now I'm going to go and color, I don't know, her face, but you need to do this gently with everything. So I don't know, I'm gonna guess at a light pink. I have no idea. First, you basically have to choose a color, and then after that, you get to, so I'm gonna go with soft light. I'm gonna Command Control I, and now I'm gonna, obviously it's way too pink, but you don't know that until you have it on her face, right? And now that I kind of have it on, really very abruptly, it's not perfect or anything, but it helps me now see, so that now I can keep saying, okay, how do I change that? So I go back to the color, and now let's go to something that's a bit more peachy toned, and let's see until I find a color that kind of might look a little bit like actual skin tones. I don't know. Of course, I need to get rid of her eyes, because that would look weird, et cetera, until I find a tone that might actually make her skin look a bit more skin-like, which I think I'm getting closer to it now. But then I'll say, so that might look a bit better for actual skin, but, and again, I'd have to zoom in. I'd have to make a hole in this area to avoid having her eyes covered, et cetera, et cetera. So it's, you know, it's a lot of work. So I'm just trying to show this to you rather quickly. Ups. Oh, this is an example. I'm so glad I kind of did. This is an example because this is affecting that. And when I tried to make a hole in here, so let me do a blush. Getting kind of blue because it's showing me the blue that's, no, it shouldn't be showing me the blue that's underneath. Why is it?
That might be the gray in her face. on the
Yeah, that's the
white.
original. Her face was so gray. Look at that. That is her face originally. It's so bad. Thank you. You're right. It was the original gray. And I was like, why am I getting blue? I thought for a second that I was getting that, but no, it was just that I was doing this weird. Okay, so I'm gonna back up on that last brush tool. So yeah, that's, you need to basically try to neutralize the colors, because now I'm just trying to get her back to having neutral eyes, and I'm giving her basically blue eyes, but also blue eyeballs, which is why it's looking so bizarre. But anyway, this takes a lot. I mean, a lot of time, and then the eyes, and then the lips. So I'm gonna turn this off on her and go show you that one of the coolest new neural filters, and I hope because I'm on VDI that this works. Let me go to filter, and I'm going to first convert for smart filters, and you guys, we have to take a break, but I'll just show you this really quickly because we're not going to work on this as what we're going to do. I'm just going to show you one of the new neural filters is precisely the colorize one,
There.
which I believe someone used on the oatmeal cookies, but it's meant to colorize.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I have to download it since I'm on. See if it
Diane,
downloads. It's supposed to colorize black and white photos. So give me a second. And we've temporarily disabled this. Why? Because of an error. Let me just stop sharing because it might just be that the neural filter is not going to work while I'm on VDI.
some students run
Give me
VDI.
one second, and then
Through city college when they don't have the internet, which I do. Some kids are on borrowed laptops from city college. So I'm choose them.
okay. It's just not liking it. VDI and neural filters don't seem to be getting along. I'm actually, I haven't talked to I'm going to send them a message about this because, you know, it is one of those things that we're gonna need to be teaching and for the next century. Okay, so go ahead and yeah, we've disabled it because of it. I was able to do it on my own computer. But on the VDI one, I can't. So I'm gonna not bother. Yeah,
Dan, where,
Barbara,
again, where did you get Padlet? Is it Padlet?
there's if you look to the chat, I just posted the link.
Okay,
Let
I
me put it in there
didn't
one more
look for it in the chat.
Go.
Thank you.
There we go. I just posted it again.
Deanna,
Yes,
I- wanted to know, so they still haven't posted the fall classes yet, because I looked up the CRN and it says there's nothing there.
so. Let me share my screen. So Photoshop 42385 is there. The thing is that I don't know, like, where are you putting the number in that it says there's nothing there?
I'm on the search class schedule search for fall 2022.
Did you select non-credit?
Yes.
All right. This one that I'm showing right now, this kind of search.
Yeah,
So you have to click on fall, click non-credit, and then you have to say select.
okay,
So the whole catalog switches to that one. If you
Okay.
just select, just do that, it doesn't work. It's got that and then two, and then the good old select. Now your catalog.
now I
And
got
now
it.
if you put that CRN in there and say search. I never use CRNs. Anyway, I don't know why we didn't. So here's my
works.
way of using this. I just go down to instructor.
Okay,
Here on the word instructor, click, turn it on, and then start writing MUSA, and that's me. And then I say search, and then they all come up. So if you know your instructor's name that you want, that's the easiest way to search the search. If you
Okay.
don't know your instructor's name, that's hard, because yeah, you're right, I put the CRN there. And say search. Oh, it pulled up.
because you
It did pull
selected,
up. What's that?
your name's still selected, that's why it came up. But if there was no name there, it wouldn't come up.
Huh. Let me reset the search. Select, and if I
Don't
put the
click the-
number in here, paste. It needs to have no space behind. See how there's a space behind? So I got
Yeah.
rid of that space. And then you do a search and then it comes up. So it's not
Right,
because my name is selected, it's because I had an extra space there. My
Yeah.
name is not selected now, see?
Yeah.
So then it works, but it's really tricky. So you need, I had an extra space and it wasn't working as soon as there was an
I
extra
didn't
space.
select- I didn't click on the select up in the red box.
Yeah, that's the important one. Because if
Right.
not, by default, it's going to the credit. And so then that CRN gives you nothing. So you need to, even if you click credit, non-credit, nothing changes. No, notice up here what's going to change. When I say select, then this changes and then now you're in the non-credit one. It's very hard. You can't tell. It's not intuitive at all.
So it's showing at 9 o'clock and a 10:50 class. You're not doing the 10:50 class?
No, it's not that it's a 9 o'clock and a 10:50. It's that it's so hard to explain. These things are just non-intuitive. Class starts at 9, ends at 12, but
Okay.
you need to give a break. And so it's a long story. They call this part the lecture, this part the lab. Doesn't matter. That's not how we teach, but they need to officially select it in that. So they assume that you first, the way it used old fashioned people would sit there and just spout at people and then say, okay, you guys go work. So that's how that's divided into lab, lecture, and lab for its one class that starts
Okay.
at that time and ends at that time. Okay.
Okay.
So if I were to sit here and tell you everything about Photoshop and then say, okay, you guys work for the next, hour and a half, that's how this is supposed to work, but that's not how I teach. But that's why it's just decided that way.
And then how do we sign up for the class?
Okay, so you have to go to your sign into your pipeline. And then I can only show you a portion of it because I'm not a student, so it doesn't completely turn it. Oh, that wasn't in my phone, sorry. You go to your pipeline. And then under student, you go to registration. Right there, registration. And it's timing out. Pipeline portal. Student registration. Good. And then register, add, or drop classes. So again, register, add, or drop classes. Right there. And then you choose what session, and then you say submit. And now I can't register because I'm not a student, but you should have some boxes down here opened up. That's where you put your CRN and then you hit change. And if you want to share your screen at that point, I can help you because mine isn't, I'm not a student, so
Yeah, because
mine
I-
looks different.
I'm not getting that, so.
Okay,
yeah,
so share your screen. Okay, oh, well, first that you need to tell it what you want to. What's your educational goal? So yeah, you need to answer the questions they have first,
Okay,
and then it'll give you. So, and you can say nothing or whatever, but you know, not
Okay.
sure or something like that, but yeah.
Diane, when you're done, I got another question.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and then,
I want to show you this before you leave. Okay.
okay, so I continue through that and I'll
Show
take
you
me to the
the-
place I need to go.
I need it
keep
proper.
continuing.
Okay. Well, this is kind of personal information I don't want to share.
Yeah, so just
Okay.
opt out.
I'm not, hold on, I've got to minimize the screen.
But you
from-
can opt out. Where it says submit
Yes.
survey, you can opt out.
I
Down at
just
the
have-
bottom,
Okay,
and then say continue on the bottom left. Go to the bottom of all the paragraph, continue. And now say continue to registration. You can go back in there later and give it the, and then now scroll all the way down. Kind of, you can, yeah, and see those little boxes, put in the CRN and then say submit change. Which is weird to say submit change to sign up for a class, but there you go. And now scroll down, let's see. Scroll down.
I'm trying.
Oh, sorry. You don't have a scroll on your mouse?
I do, I'm just
Okay, so you must have an approved vaccine or exemption. You need to go up and yada, yada, yada. So I guess you still need to put in information.
okay. Well, is it a virtual class or in-person class?
Yeah, that's true. It's not in person. Why does it ask you
Yeah, I didn't before.
for
asked me.
vaccine?
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I ended
No.
up submitting my vaccine card and blah, blah, blah for,
Yeah, I think they want it
knows
for
why.
everyone in part because they might think that you need to go meet with the instructor, you know, I don't know. I think to take, I don't know really if it's online, why they're asking you for the vaccine.
remember how it
So-
was listed at the Wake Center at one place, so it may be connected to that. Maybe there's still a
Yeah.
link. Yeah.
So you go to c4sbc.edu, create a cleared for account and upload documents, basically is what it's telling you to do. But yeah, call, otherwise call the front office and ask them why, but do you see here where it says status, you must have an approved vaccine or exemption? Go to c4.sbcc.edu and create a cleared for account if you don't have one yet, and then upload your documents. But if you don't want to do that because it's all online, maybe you need to call the front office and ask them what's up, because yeah, I don't know, let me find that number. I don't know why you would have to do this. So I'm glad that I helped you do this because I wouldn't have known that this was happening. Trying to look for the number here to give you. Oh, you have an account. Okay.
No, I don't.
Oh. Okay, so then I don't know. You go there and you have to create an account. So if you don't have
You
one, you
have a
have to create
student
one.
number? a
You have to
student
put in-
ID?
Yeah, you need to put in your, you got to put in your K number, I believe. It's remembering someone because there's a number and a password there, but I don't
Right.
know.
That's me, I mean, that's my date of birth and I'm assuming my password.
Sign in.
but it says invalid login.
Invalid login, please, so don't sign in again. I don't know. I don't think,
I'll call Karen.
yeah, I don't remember. I set this up so long ago. I don't remember. If you need your ID, like your K number, I don't know why it's giving you
Okay.
that. So yeah, you're gonna have to call and ask, because I really don't know. Let me give you, like, the numbers here. The front office, I believe this is, I'm getting this number here. Here's the, yeah, I just put the CRNs for the Illustrator, Digital Design, and Photoshop, but then the Wake Center office. Here's the phone number. That said, in the email that I sent you the first day, I have a whole bunch of how to get in touch with everyone and for the front office and the schedules that they're open and stuff like that. So you might want to check in with that. All right, I'm gonna stop your share. Okay, guys, while that's happening, let's all take a break, and let me put in the chat, what time is it? 11:06. Okay.
Oh, maybe she can do it in 2 seconds.
Break until 11 plus 15, 21. It's actually 11:22
It
because
say
it's
Here,
actually
switch.
cool. So
Switch.
see you guys in 15 minutes. See you back at
Diane, 2 seconds.
11:22. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm at the Padlet place and it goes search Padlets, join a Padlet, make a Padlet. What do I want to do?
If you go to that link I gave you, it should go
That's what I
straight.
did.
Really, you guys, it does that?
Yeah.
Share your, really, if you click that link, it doesn't
Share
go
my
straight to the
screen?
right
Okay.
Padlet?
Think, share.
Welcome to Padlet. So go to recents up at the top. Let's see if that top, next
This?
to your name. No. Go down where it says, hi, B Walsh.
Recents,
Yeah,
that?
click on
Okay.
that. Yeah. No, because these are your Padlets, not mine. But if you click on the link
Well,
I
I've
gave
never
you, it
made
takes
it.
you-
I've never done a Padlet.
Yeah. So did you click on the link I gave you and it brings you
Yes,
here?
that's how I got where I was.
So you guys, anyone else who's in class still, what happens when you go to the link I give you? Shouldn't you be going straight to the Padlet? Anyone else still here? Anyone who didn't go on break? Shoot, I sent everyone to break.
Oh, well, you know what? Go on break and if you have time at the end of class or if one of the students can walk me through, it'd be great.
Yeah, you should be going to mine, not to have you make one of your own.
Oh,
Log
okay.
log out of yours, maybe log out of this, because you shouldn't be in your own account. Go to
Welcome to Padlet.
yeah, you should, the way, because did you sign into Padlet?
No, because I don't have an, oh, I got here and then I said.
Oh, see, yeah, you're creating a new one, so don't go back out. You shouldn't go to any of those.
Okay,
You
I'll
should,
back
you
up
should,
again.
you should basically keep going backwards. Go to the chat and click on the link that I just gave you again. There it is.
Okay,
There it is. You're in
there
there.
it is.
You don't need to sign up for an account. If you click on
Okay.
the link I give you, you're here. You're using it as a student, not as an
Okay, now,
account
well,
owner.
how do I save that so I can go there again?
Well, on my handouts, I have the link here. in the chat.
Oh, I
I'll
didn't
always
see it
give you
in the
link.
handouts. That's,
Okay, so in the handouts, I'm going to share you my screen now.
okay.
If you go to the handouts, then right at the top of my shared drives, I have the Zoom link recordings, and then here I have how to use Padlet. If you double click on how to use
It's in the
Padlet,
class
there's the link.
recording.
Yeah, not in the class recordings, but right next to it. See, here's the class recordings.
I can't see that. Can you go to the left and go up a little bit?
I'm sharing. Here's the class recordings.
Okay.
And then here I have how to use Padlet,
How do,
and I
okay.
have the Padlet link is in there.
Okay, I'll do that while you're on
It's right
break.
here. It's right there.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you're welcome. All right, let's take a break.
Let me go while she's on break. I'm going to go back over here.
Hi, guys. All right. So, yeah. Did you get to the Padlet, Barbara? I can't hear you.
Yes, I do.
I got to it. I'm not sure how I'll get back to it when I'm not in class, but
Oh,
I think I
well,
can do it.
you click, you keep this link, copy this link and put it on a note or something.
Okay, I have it.
Or go to the Hangouts and open up the how to use Padlets, and there's the link right there too.
Great, thanks.
Okay,
I'm gonna go and lock my gate so my friend can leave.
no, all right.
He's got the keys. okay.
Deanna,
Yes,
so I called Wake Center and something didn't get programmed right. So they're gonna fix the problem, so you don't have to send in a COVID vaccine card.
yeah, and you know what? That might be then for all of my classes, and hopefully they figured it out.
High school course. Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, I need my cane.
Oh, and Andrea saying the Wake Center number is, oh, they must have that, that's the original one.
I don't
You're
know,
right.
whatever you gave me was not, it was a disconnected number.
So they changed it during the pandemic. Yeah, I just went into my, interesting. So let me actually copy that number myself. Because I have the number, I just went to my contact list, which I haven't updated in forever. I didn't go to one of their pages, so thanks for telling me that that's the right number.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
cool. So let me go back to let me mute. Yeah, I need to, I'm trying my mail a lot here. Let me mute Barbara, who's saying goodbye to her friend, and we can all hear it. Okay. So what was I trying to do before break? Oh, I was trying to show you the that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to show you the colored, what's the name of that photo? What did I call it? What's the photo that we were working on? Shoot, I'm gonna have to go find it again. What's the name of the file? It's photography. Okay. I was trying to find the one. P. OPQ. Here we go. Photography. And let me share my screen. So now I'm opening it in my own computer because I was trying to do this, but I couldn't because of VDI. So anyway, let me really quickly choose the convert for small filters and then choose a neural filters. And I just wanted to show you really quickly that the colorize, when you turn it on, it processes it and see it colorized it. Now, you can like or not what it did, right? But as you can see, there's some weird like stuff going on her dress or whatnot, but look at how natural the hair and the faces look. And the skin, that looks really good. So what you can do is you can work on this and then you can fix the stuff that seems to need more work on the body. Does that make sense? So I can go over here and output as a new masked layer, for example, and then I can say, okay. And here it gave me a mask that I can turn on and off. And what I can do is I can leave all the skin colors intact and all that because I like it, but I can eliminate the color on her dress and then give her my own color on her dress the way that I preferred it and stuff like that. Does that make sense? So anyway, this is that. This is actually a much better, if you want, solution than having to do it one by one yourself. All right, so I'm going to stop that, share, and go back to my other screen to continue with the class. There we go. All right, so those of you who are on VDI, when I'm not on Zoom and you're not using anything else, go ahead and try and see if you can do those neural filters. But other than that, when I've tried to do it on Zoom, it seems to get stuck and say, "Nah, not happening." All right. Okay, so now this is us making a handmade, so to say, mask. Normally, what you end up doing is a bit of either, right? So for example, like a bit of both what I taught you at the beginning at the end. So for example, when we opened this one the other day to create a mask, and I'm going to double click on it again. We used let me open it again. This is the original one without all our changes. I had you use all these different tools, right, to make your selections. So basically what you would do is you would make your selections, which whatever of these tools does it best. And then with your brush on your mask, you fix with on and off. So last time I kept teaching you how to use a different tool because I was teaching you tools, or I was showing you how to go with a lasso tool. So that's really the best of all worlds. So if you guys can open this one and fix your mask now that you know how to do back and forth, you can do that to the one that you had left almost good. You can now make it truly good. You know what I mean? Because now you know how to do it with all the automatics and with the brushes. So you basically, now it's just a matter of practicing more and more. Now, there's a couple of other kinds of things that you can do on a face. And I'm going to go back to this boy that needs a cleanup, which I shouldn't have saved the one that's worked on, but since I did it in a non-destructive way, I can undo. So I'm going to have us open the boy's face. And because I really want to show you something about mask, I want to show you another way to use masking. So I'm going to turn all these things off that I changed on him because I don't want to have that be the effect. In fact, I'm going to turn these off completely because that's not what I was trying to show you. So if you guys still have the original, fine. And if not, you can do a save as. Maybe you should do a save as to end up having a file save as to have a clean version of this guy. I'm going to do that because I should have a clean version of him for my class. Okay. So I'm replacing him with this one because I didn't need the one with all the changes. Okay. So here's what I wanted to show you. In what other way can this masking help us? Now, there's not that much right now that you would look at this image other than all the pimples and stuff that needs to be changed or fixed, but we can use these levels and these tools that I just showed you in a way to edit images. So if you want to watch the process a second, and then we'll do it with everyone. So what if I want to lighten the dark areas under his eyes, for example, a little bit, or if I want to darken a little bit of the shine that he has here on his forehead, or lighten his cheeks and darken his to have his face look more angular, or just things, you know, all these things that people do. This is what they do to magazines if you want to make people look more model ready. So how would you do that with the tools that I just taught you? So I'm going to just show you really quickly. I can go and make a levels, for example, that where I'm going to lighten the tones on his face, right? So there you go. I lightened it. Now I lightened the whole face, which is wrong per se, but now I'll Command or Control I to get rid of that effect. Yeah. And then with a brush, I'm going to put a brush down here and I'm going to make it, and this is the important part, the opacity, very, very low. I'm going to go with 3% or 5%, very, very low, right? So watch, if I were to now have it at 100% and I were to go in here and suddenly paint with this, it'll look really weird. See that? Because I made a very light. So I'm going to undo that. But instead, I'm going to go with a very low version of it. So again, when you're really picky, you go to 3 to 5. I'm going to go to 5%. And now I'm going to gently start one and another and another and another, and I'm gently painting a slightly little bit lighter. So I'm not getting that intense effect I was getting. And every time I pass, I'm painting it a little bit more. Let me show you what's happening on the mask when I do this. I'm going to Option and Alt. Hello. My computer froze. There. So this is what I'm doing. And let me show it to you in real life. What I'm doing is with the 5%, I'm going like this, and then like that, and then like that, and then like that. So the places where these are overlapping is becoming lighter. See what I mean? That's the effect of what's happening when you have a 5% and you go over it again. This I forgot to show you before. And then you go over it and you go over it and you go over again. It's like 5 plus 5 is 10 plus 5 is 20, 15, so another 5 is 20. So if you were to do this, a bunch of times, you'd get to pure white. So I'm gently applying as much as I need to the areas that are darker and less to the areas that are not as dark. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off again now, so that we can see his face again. And if I were to turn this on and off right now, look at it under his eye. Okay, look at this area. And this is how it used to be. Okay. Hold on. Okay, so look over there. I don't know why I'm having... Computer is freezing on me. And then this is the on. Okay, so now watch while I turn it on and off. That's the change I've made. That's not. That's dark. That's lighter. See how it's a very gentle change and realistic, versus had I applied the 100% of that, it wouldn't work. Now I'm going to go do it on this side too. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to just gently pass and pass and pass and keep passing and keep passing. And, you have to be very patient, because at first it seems like nothing is happening. But if you do this enough times and you start tackling other areas, whatever. So now I'm just kind of really quickly working on these two areas. And so there's a lot more in other places I could go, but I'm just showing you these two. So now that's the before and after. It's subtle, but you can't tell that I've made a change, but he looks like he has much less dark eyes under his. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yes.
So that's a real life application of a mask with the brushes at different levels of opacity and making it make a change in this case. Now I might want to maybe lighten his eyes. I don't know. I'm going to just say it. I want his eyes to be brighter. So I'm going to do the opposite levels. I'm going to do actually, I'm going to not do an opposite. I'm going to do a brighter one. I'm going to make this go much brighter. Sorry. And actually going to make the whites of his eyes much brighter, like I want his eyes. So I'm just bringing in the whites a bit so that I have more contrasty eyes. And now everything is going weird, but I'm just looking at his eyes. That's all I'm looking at, right? I'm focusing on his eyes. And when I go, okay, I kind of like that look for his eyes for whatever reason. And I'm exaggerating because it's easier to see a bit on the video. So I think that's what the eyes are going to be. So then again, I go to my mask and I invert it. Okay, so Control or Command I, and then with my brush at 5%, I would do even lower, but I'm going to go 5% because I start brushing in here into his eyes so that I can have a brighter eye. So I'm going over the white of his eyes a lot, and I'm just have a soft brush, right? So it doesn't like look. And so now by the time you're done, look at if I turn this on and off. See that eye? Look at it. Off and on, off and on. And again, I kind of enhanced too much of the redness of his eyes, and now if I turn both of these on and off, now I've got the under eye and his eye. And since I think that's way too bright, I'm going to go ahead and add black again. I don't want that to be so bright, but now his eyes. So maybe I don't want his eyeballs to be so bright, but I do want the eye color to be lighter. So I'm going Or I could change his eye color and make his eye colors be, I don't know, blue or something like that. So I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna choose a solid color. Let's go for blue eyes. I don't know. And then I'm going to is one of these gonna work for his eyes to be blue? I don't know. None of these seem to. So I have to choose a different color to make that happen. Okay, so it looks like the color fill is not going to work right now for his eyes. How about I do instead a hue saturation? So I'm going to actually, my computer is being really, really weird. So I'm going to go and do a hue saturation instead. And let's see if I can get those eyeballs to be blue. Let me see. And so the whole face is looking bizarre, right? But it's okay. We're just kind of, oh, they're right. They're under the, and then colorize. I don't know why his eyes are just not wanting to. Blue is not a color they're trying to turn. I'm not able to get blue eyes on this guy for some reason, but anyway. Okay, so whatever that color is, now I do Control I, and now let's see if I let some of that in with the brush, if it changes the color of his eyes. It is in a weird way, it is, but it's making them bluer, but it's a bit of an opaque blue, but there you go. Now he's got blue eyes, or one blue eye. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yes.
Yep, I'm
How
not
we're-
getting any changes with mine. I mean, like my brush is not working.
So now there's a bit fake color. I'm going to bring that down a little bit so it's not so intense. Give me a second. I'll help you in a second. My computer's just, this is not wanting to react. Okay, so now I've gone and changed. I've made these 3 changes to this boy. I've made his eyes lighter. I've made them be bluer, and he has less stuff under his eyes. One of the eyes is lighter than the other because I didn't mask both of them yet, but there you go. So I'm going to stop my share your screen so I can see what's working and what's not working for you, Andrea. While you guys
It's
go ahead and
okay,
change.
just go ahead. I'm
Well,
I'm
this is what I'm teaching and I'm done. So now I want you guys to do it. So go ahead and show me yours and I'll help you do it.
okay. Hang on.
I'm trying to
I
give you practical applications for everything we've just done. For masking, you probably wouldn't mask a whole flower with a brush. You would probably do a selection for the brush, you know what I'm trying to say? But I wanted you to learn the process and see the thickness and the thickness. And now I'm showing you a real application of a brush.
I've
you wouldn't-
lost my Zoom. Oh, there it is. Screen share. Share.
Well, sorry, that copy went the wrong way. I'm sorry. Mute myself for a second. Sorry about that.
You okay?
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay now. So what were you saying? Oh,
How do I see what changes I make? Because it seems like when
okay.
I'm
So right now your masks are both white. So let's go first of all and check out your mask. So you have 2 masks in there. Turn both of the eyeballs off of those masks. And the other one. Okay, so one is doing nothing. So get rid of the bottom one. It's not working on anything yet. So get rid of it. Okay, now the top one, turn it on and off. On and off. And as you can see, it's lightening his whole face. But you don't want his whole face to be lightened. What you need to do is, yes, like you did correctly, you lighten the whole face because that's the end color. Turn it on again. That's the end color that you might want the places under his eyes to do. It's doing something beyond lightening. Can you turn on the properties to see what you moved in there? Because it's looking at the color of the skin is changing. Go to the properties, which is to the left of the mask. So the mask, yeah, now go to, the little kind of crown that's in the middle, which is the level, yeah, the histogram, double click on that. Yeah, so you brought the whites in. So I probably wouldn't put the bright whites in so much. So grab the whites and move them back to the right. Yeah. And maybe just move only the middle one, because if not, the colors start going really weird. So now move to the left on that one to lighten his skin. There you go. So now you've lightened his skin considerably, right? Now, notice that we're not eliminating the bags under his eyes. We just need to lighten them, because if not, it would be unrealistic. Like you could go ahead and move even a bit further to the right if you want, as long as you use to the left. Sorry, apologize. Okay, so not so much, but yeah, the final skin color that you want. So maybe you're a bit too far to the left. Just so say that that's the final skin color. Okay, now move to the mask. Click on the mask. Now you need to inverse that, right? Which if you don't remember how to do the Command I or Control I, then notice that in the properties, when you click on the mask, the properties that you left open have a button that says invert. Do you see that? So go back to
Yes.
the properties and click on invert. So that's the equivalent. So now what you've done, now you have your mask, which is hidden. All that lightness is hidden because the color of his face was fine. You just made a portion, you just made a lighter mask of the color you want that dark circle under his eye to be. And now with a brush, you start gently brushing under his eyes. Now you have it at 30%, so it might not be. So you go ahead and try it 30% first to see the effect. So when you click there, see, it should get quite a bit lighter, quite quick, right? Because you are very quickly by the way, when I say the brush, if you keep it held down and you brush it and brush it and brush it held down, it's still only one pass. But when you let go of the mouse and you click again, then it's 2 passes or 3 passes. So if you notice now at the end of his eye, you have like a line where you have a bright area and the rest is dark because you went, you see what I mean? So you have to be subtle or have a smaller brush, or as I said before, very patiently with 5% or 10% when you're learning, just gently brush and brush and brush so that the effect isn't so intense at first, but also give it a very soft brush because you want the effect to be very, very mixed. So you're at hardness 0. Okay, perfect. And now just mainly, yeah, less opacity, and then just gently pass it over enough until you kind of mix. And so, yeah, when you just pass back and forth without lifting your mouse, that's equivalent to 1 pass. So you need to lift your mouse and pass again, that it lightens, and then mouth and lightens, and then go a little bit under his eye because you're lightening this part, but maybe not following through under his eyelash. So go up a bit to the left. Yeah. So otherwise you were getting like a weird line there. So it's just a matter of looking and seeing if you've gotten too light, like right now, I think that maybe that part there is too bright, like where you are right now, that you got really bright as opposed to the rest. So now you might want to just click back to black and brush a little bit of darkness in there again. Maybe make your brush a little bit smaller and just lighten just that little one area that you left a bit too bright, right? See what I mean?
Yes.
Versus the area that's underneath, that's what's dark. You don't want to darken that. You want to just darken that area that you made too bright that's a little bit right under his lashes. There's like a little bag there that's now kind of white, like right where you are now. Yeah, right there. See that? So maybe you darken that again so that the whole thing looks a bit, so there you go. So now you don't have like a white, see what I mean?
Yes.
It's going much better. And then you make a big brush again and you just go gently over everything to make everything lighter parallel. So you just kind of play with it, and it's like painting, you know? So you might want to go bigger than that. The smaller your brush, the harder the edges of it. No matter how 0% hardness, when you have a tiny brush, there's only a tiny little edge to that. You know what I mean?
Do you see what just happened?
Yeah, because say okay. And go back to the brush. Yeah, and you hit, so go up higher, make it bigger. You hit, make your brush bigger now. I don't know, somewhere to the middle. And let's see how big it is, which is why I don't like doing it that way. I like using the, because I don't know how big it is. Okay, it needs to be much bigger. So go to your, yeah, there maybe. Yeah, and then show it again. That's a bit better. So now go and just gently paint everything. And you have a 14%. So you might, so remember 14% with 10 passes, you're at 100%, right? Or less with 8 passes or 7 passes. So if you've gone too far, you can back off again, or you can go down to 5%, or you can just go and redo your levels and darken the levels. You know, there's all these different choices you can make to mute the effect. But now go and turn the eyeball on and off to see where you are now from where you were before. No, not that one, but the levels. And look at the area that you were affecting. See how changed it is?
Yes.
Okay. And so on and so forth. Now go to the other eyeball. Perfect. All right. Anyone else wants to share with me?
Can you show to change the eye color again?
I used a hue saturation
Oh, huge.
layer. And let me share my screen. Yeah, so I did a hue saturation layer. And I ended up having to use the colorize because none of the colors were really changing too much. So when you colorize, it's kind of similar to that color fill where everything turned to color. So if I turn this colorize off, look at his eyes, it goes to that's the regular color. And now if I play around with all of this, this layer is only affecting his eyes. So any changes that I do now, see how they happen only on his eyes? See how his eyeballs are changing from light to dark?
Mm.
Why? Because I just masked only his eyeballs. So if I were to make his eyes be bright red right now, because I'm trying to, make him look like he's a demon or something or whatever, I could. Oh, I have it. I guess I didn't give him 100%.
But how do we get to the point where you're at once we've chosen our color?
So let me go back on what I just undid. I didn't want to change that. So this is. Okay, so I went ahead and I messed it up because I don't have what I had before. Okay, so let me lighten. So I'm making it really obvious, like much lighter than would be normal. I don't think anyone has eyes this color. I'm trying to you guys really see it. Okay, so what this is basically, I'm going to show you, is just a mask where all I'm doing is I'm painting. I made a mask making his eyes blue, and then I just added it just to this little bit. Okay.
My
So
question
it's-
is though, when we first choose the color, his whole face is the color we chose. How do we go from there to just making his eyes blue or purple or green?
Okay, so you need to invert your mask first. Okay, so when you first choose everything and basically the whole face looks kind of weird. Oh, there we go. When the whole face looks kind of weird, but the eye color is what you think you're going to want. Same as we did before with you need to invert the mask. And I showed you that either it's Command I, or if the properties are open, that's what you did up there. If the properties are open, then you get to, if you click on the mask, I'm just getting weird. Sorry, mine. Then you go to the properties, and if you forget about the control or Command I, then you got here the little button for invert. So once you invert the mask, okay, so it's back invert or invert, you just click it. So in this case, you looked only at the color of his eyes and said, I want his eyes to be like that, right? And then you inverted. By the way, on this one, I had actually already lightened the effect. So that's the color that I ended up getting. I changed it because I was working with you guys, but anyway. So you invert it, and then you grab your white brush and you begin to paint the effect into the eyes. And in this case, the effect was very, very light eyes, which aren't the first ones I had made. There you go. For this set, now I have these very light eyes. And then, since I thought he looked weird, I lightened the effect of the color by darkening it over here. Okay. So does that make sense? You first need to make the change you want, and then you need to invert it, basically disappearing the effect, and then you open just a little bit of space for you that effect to be. Like if I wanted to make his lips be this color, now I could go and paint over his lips, but what's, I don't want that. I just wanted it in there, so I changed it in there. I can go, and then it's good if I double click and say, instead of hue saturation, I double click on the name and say eye color. Right, so later I know which one I'm affecting. Then this one here was eye brightness. And then this one was dark circle under eyes. So now I know that if I want to keep working on the dark circle under his eyes, I click on this one, and then I can maybe lighten a little bit of this space. I called it dark circle under his eyes, but I might want to lighten the space above his eyes. I don't know. I'm just kind of playing around with some other stuff now. You got to be subtle. You don't want to make them look alien, right? And this is how you can collect some. I told you from the beginning, you can correct some of that red on his face. So you might want to make levels that take some redness away. So let's try that. There's different ways to do that. But now I can try, which one should I do that? Maybe I can, let me try some color balance where I'm going to take some red away by adding magenta. So I'm just looking at the red spots on his skin. Okay. Just looking at the red spots on his skin. So the before and after, they're much less red. Maybe I can warm it up a little bit. There's other ways to do this, but so now his whole face looks green, but I've gotten some of the red out of the way. So now I will invert that, Command or Control I. And this one is going to be a bit harder, but I'll give it a try. Oh, come on, VDI redrawing. My VDI is having a really hard time right now. I don't know why. And then with a smaller brush set on very, very soft. Do I have it on very soft? Yeah, I'm having, don't send. My bridge just crashed. Yeah, my computer is having weird troubles. Okay, so with a very soft brush, okay, I'm gonna go in and see if I can paint a little bit of that redness away. So I'm gonna try with a bigger 50%, just so I'm a little bit faster. So it's getting a little bit too green. So see where I'm trying to fix the red? I'm getting these weird green shadows because that's the color I made, which I put too much green into it. You see what I mean? So now I'm gonna open the properties and bring it back down because I made it too cyan. There you go. So now if I go back here, I can start clicking on some of the other redness bits. And hopefully by the time I'm done, some of the extra redness of his skin in the areas where it was worst. I mean, in the areas where you could really see it. This is the uncorrected, so I haven't actually reduced his pimples in this one. So I'm just correcting the color, but this is the unretouched one that I opened. But now look at his nose. I'm going to do before and after. I don't know if you can tell, it's subtle. But can you tell that the redness is going away? So it's subtle. I wish you could just look in here. Just focus on that, and it might just not. Let me go bigger. I don't know. So look at this area here, like these three, and I'm going to turn it off. That's more red, and now on. The red is gone. Can you see? It's subtle, but that together with, say that now I was to go with the tool that I had done originally, and if I were to now spot that, take that little spot area off, it might actually look like there was nothing on that skin. Whereas before, when we took the pimple off, we still had like that red spot, you know what I mean? Anyway, so right now I'm just actually doing some spotting that I taught you a few days ago for the areas that were so now I'm gonna, it's so big. So now the combination of the spotting, which was there, plus the color, turn both on or off, and that his nose there looks much cleaner. I haven't done all the others. Go and do spotting on that one. All right, so anyway, it's subtle, and these changes many times have to be very subtle for them to then somehow look natural. Okay. So over here, I had that gash under his chin, but even when I had taken the gash out, it was still colored. So now I took the color off down there. If you look at that little spot, there was a little spot of red, which I took off with this one. Okay. So subtly and with little bits and pieces here and there, you get to completely fix the different things that this kid needs to have fixed. I haven't really taken the red off this side of the nose yet, but anyway, keep working with it. Okay. Andrea had dropped out. Let's bring her in again. All right. Any questions, you guys? So now I'm going to turn all of these on and off really quickly. That's him before. This is him after. And I've only done a little bit of the right side of his face spotting in there and his eyes, but it's all subtle. He's still him, but quite a bit different, right? In the before and after. And it's just little layers affecting different parts of his face. I could do one where I darken some areas of his skin if it's too shiny, or darken the side that I want it to be a bit more contrasty than that side. So you can keep playing with this as much as you want. So I'm going to go ahead and make a levels where I'm going to darken one side of his face, for example, right? So here it is. Now I do the Command I. Whoops. I hate that it's there. And now I'm going to just do a huge brush, and I'm just going to kind of darken this whole side of his face to have more contrast between the lights and the shadows. Right, so I'm just making his whole face much more contrasty. What am I doing? I'm just subtly adding more of that dark layer. And you're like, oh, I can barely tell what you're doing. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm being very subtle about it, because I'm just doing it at 5%. So there you go. That and this, that and this. Okay. So anyway, hopefully what you're going to do for next class, which is the last class is next week, next Wednesday is our last class. I want you guys to grab a portrait. It doesn't need to be this kid. But if you have no other portrait, then do it on this kid. But if you have other portraits that you can, so I'm going to darken him a bit more. You can see this effect more strongly on him. So there's the left side of his face and the right side of his face, which I don't know necessarily that I would do it this way right now, but I'm just showing you other subtle ways to change things. And then I have to undo the darkness on his eye. So then make changes and then tell me what these changes have been and put them on your, give me the Padlet. So right now I'm kind of making his lips darker with that darkness level. So he almost looks like he has lip color, and all I did is I just darkened his lip colors with the little levels because I made the midtones a bit darker, right? So it almost looks like he's got painted lips. So I'm not saying it's good. I'm just showing you things you can do. All right. So a lot of women like that. So it looks natural. It doesn't look like you have lipstick on, but I've just darkened, given you a bit more tone to the lips. All right. I'm going to go ahead and let's save this as save on your computer. And let's do dark, light, levels mask, and save and save. So now that's the before kid and the after kid. All right. Go ahead and let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we're going to move on to do a bit more of resolution conversation. I'm going to clear your feedback. If you're ready to move on to something else, give me a yes. If you have some questions and you want to ask me or show me, then say no or just speak up. But if you're ready to see or talk about something else, or if you're still working on it and you're like, wait, I want to work on it a little bit more, give me a little no. I'm going to give you guys some time to work on things, but I don't know how. Well, no one's answering, so you're probably working on it still. So let me look at the time. Uh-oh. I'm going to mute myself for a second. All right, sorry about that for a second. So there was an urgent text that I had to answer right now because my son is teaching a film workshop right now. Very cool. And then a friend of mine texted me saying she wanted her kid to join, but I just saw her text and it was from 2 hours ago when I was teaching. So I said, hi, I can't do anything about it, but take the kid to the workshop. So that's why it was urgent, because the thing is happening. It's a full week teen workshop that he's doing. So very cool. All right. No one's answered, but I'm assuming you're ready to move on. Are you? No one has any questions? So if you're ready to move on, give me a big old yes, a green check, a green yes. If you're still working on it, tell me no, I'm still working on it.
And I still have a question about a color balance layer. I cannot get that pimple off.
All right, so go ahead and share your screen. And-
I need to log in. Did you want me to log
Oh,
in?
you
Oh,
don't have,
okay.
okay, so
Yeah.
what's your question then? Let's see if I can help you without seeing it.
I do the inverts.
Yeah.
And then highlight the spot like the forehead and the chin, that
Uh-huh.
two big one. But still it's showing that, not like the one is kind of smooth off. To do it.
Yeah, unless, if you want to just take your time and connect with the other computer so that you can share with me. I mean, if you're doing the invert and it's not working, then I need to see, because then I can figure out what's wrong.
Okay. Let me log in.
Okay, other than that, Monica, how are you doing? Harry, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Working on the face? Monica, ow, I haven't heard from you. All is good? Megan, give me a yes before. I know Vera is just listening in today. All right, well. I just went down the wrong way and it's still. Okay, so I'm gonna, here's my son is coming in with her computer. So now. Letting her share her screen.
I have a question.
Yes, Harry? So Mason, whenever you're ready, please share your screen. Meanwhile, Harry is asking me something. So yes, Harry?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Somehow by accident, I tried a smaller size of the grid video, and I lost my face.
Oh, for Zoom, you mean?
Yeah, like everybody show the face.
Yeah, I'm seeing your face just fine.
can see it?
So your face, yeah, I see your face talking to me. So it's not lost. Somehow you're not seeing it, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to see yourself. So that's okay. I can see you. We can see you. So you're fine.
Thank you.
All right. So Mason, yes, tell me, show
So
me
like this one, if I go in here,
color balance. Well, first of all, let's turn that on. Let's turn those, go to the properties to see what's happening. So you have some things very subtle. Yeah. So let's go to your
Right.
properties. Let's see what you changed. Double click the properties. So you've taken some red out, added a little blue. Okay. And notice by the way that we did this just to the midtones, which is fine because his face is midtones, that's fine, but it's subtle. It'll only change it in the areas that you changed it. And you have a very soft brush, so there's very few changes. So let's go look and turn that eyeball on and off and let's see if we can see any changes on the face. Okay, now turn the eyeball
Oh.
on.
this is on. It's just like
I
this.
actually saw, it's just a tiny bit. So go ahead and grab your brush. Go to the brush first. You're not in brush yet.
Oh.
You're in something else. So go to your brush. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
And now make that hard. No, that's
colors?
fine. That's fine. Now go up to the opacity. And for a second, just make it 100% so that we can really see the change. So go to the opacity. Make it a full 100%. And then go and hover over the kid's, that big one on his forehead. And, oh, you're not in the mask. Down there, you're in the properties, so go in the mask. Yeah, and then just paint over that. See how the change is happening? Okay, I just wanted to see if the change was happening. First of all, even at 100%, you can't get rid of the shape. The shape is still there, right?
Hmm.
Like that is still there. That would still be something you'd have to use a tool to spot to make a mistake. But the color was happening. And if you ever want to test it, you guys, just do it at 100% on something. Go and do it on the edge of his nose there, where the round part of his nose, like, how do you call it? The little flare of the nose, where it's red on the bottom near. So it's working, right? So now Command Z a couple of times, And then when you go back to 10% or whatever you were doing, you need one more back because you left a little white spot there. Yeah, go back to like 13% or 10% or whatever it is that you had it at. I think you had it at 13. Go down lower, yeah, because it's a pretty strong effect. Now, when you go do it,
You want to show.
well, but now you need to gently paint it on and on and on again and again and again until it slowly you start seeing. But you saw that even at 100%, that little red part of the spot won't go. You still need to get the texture gone with the other tool, with the retouching tool. We're just working on a bit of that color. So go to his nose again. Go to his nose again. Okay, now go down towards his cheek. Down towards his right cheek. There, stop. There. That area is pretty red. Try it over there. There's a lot of red in that area. So that's where you might want to try and gently. Okay, and now go and subtly turn the eyeball on and off to see and look at that area that you've been playing and see and look at the area you've been changing. And yeah, see how
Yeah,
you changed
mhm,
that? So, but it's
mhm.
subtle unless you pointedly look at it. That's the goal of these things. You change it, people go, oh, I look great. And they don't know why they look great. And you've been working on like 85 little layers, doing little things to all over the face. By the time you're done, like, you know what I mean? It's like, ooh, this looks totally natural. And wow, I look good that morning. Well, yeah, you look good that morning, but I've actually helped you a bit here and there. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's that subtlety that really does the job. Now, for the actual zits themselves, you still will need to go and do the spot reduction tool, right? So, because you can change a bit of the color. So make sure, one thing about the spot reduction tool, remember that you're doing it, if you do it right now, what layer are you on?
Mask.
You're on the color balance layer. So you need to go all the way down and do it onto the pixel layer, first of all. So scroll down to the pixels. Select your pixels and now create, to make it do it in a non-destructive way, create a new layer, go to the little plus sign, and that's where you're going to do it. So now you can go and do a spot to that area. And now it's gone. And yeah, click on that one, et cetera, et cetera. So you still need to spot, but then last time we did this, we were still leaving reddish areas behind, right? And it's those reddish areas that we're dealing with now with a bit of color. So if you do your spotting first, then you'll see left over what reddish areas still need to be tackled. Okay.
Okay, so it's just a spot first. If something.
So
happens,
in this
big
case, yeah, we had done the spotting before. So when you do a spot, if the little tip of the zit in this case, which was white, and the texture of the skin changed, that fixed that. But sometimes around it, you still had red, especially in the area where it was subtle, like the nose, side of the nose, and those kind of places. So those are the kind of places that we're trying to fix. Now, when you get rid of the spot, you need to go back. And if I look at the one on his forehead right now,
Mhm.
the one that you had taken off, now suddenly there's a little green spot there where you had taken the color out, but you kept going at it. And it's a bit too much. See how there's a little bit of greenish in there with the color balance? So you might want to go and reduce the effect by putting some white on it, or take a little bit of that green. Yeah, put a little bit of that off. But also remember that you can also go and reduce the effect, maybe because you were doing so much on that one because you thought that you were trying to correct it with the color balance. You just need to go and give it less opacity. So change it to a bit less opaque and reduce the effect, but leave the harder one for the other areas that were more red, like on his nose. Okay, so that's great. Cool.
Thank you.
So it's just a subtle back and forth, back and forth. So I think I've given you a lot of different examples of how to use these things in more unrealistic ways and more realistic ways, because again, you probably on the rose, you probably would have, I'm sharing my screen now. You probably would have first masked this rose with a selection before changing its color, but then you would have fixed it with your brush, right? But again, I made you do that so that you could learn the subtleties of it. And now we go to a real use of a brush, which is when you don't have a select, you can't select the dark circle under his eyes with a selection line. There is no end to it like there is for the rose. So that's when the soft brush comes in handy. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yes.
Or if you make a hard selection of his eye over here, it might work a little bit, but it would still look fake, but it certainly wouldn't work to have it on that area or in this area. So then a soft, gentle brush does a better job. So you have to use the tool that's necessary according to what is needed. Okay. All right. So one thing that we have done a lot is layers for modifications, right? But what we haven't done, so these are all called adjustment layer masks, right? Because see, each one of these is a mask on an adjustment layer. So you have an adjustment layer mask. What we haven't done yet is a mask that's called an actual layer mask. So let's go back to bridge. Oh, that's true. My bridge had crashed. Let's open it up again. Okay, so let's go back to bridge. And what we're going to open this time is a file where we're going to do an actual layer mask. And I have a couple examples of that, but I'm trying to find one that's easy to define. And I believe this one is going to work for, I hope it's not too complicated as white on white, but I think it'll work. So the two kids on a sled. And then we're going to open, let me look at the properties. It's 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels. And then the sand on the right, 6000 by 6000. Okay, that might work. So we're going to open these two and we're going to try to make it look like these guys are sliding down this sand hill. Okay. So let's open them as if they were one file, just like we did before. So select both, click one and check and click on the next one. And then go up to Tools, Photoshop, and load files into Photoshop layers. And this is one that you're going to keep working on because class is going to be over soon, but it's going to be one that I want you guys to work on using these different effects. Let me, hold on. I'm looking at the time. What time do we have till? We have some time. Okay. So you notice that I first checked on the size of the photos in Bridge, and I checked, but I didn't like follow through with you guys to show you what I was doing, but I checked on one and I saw that at the width of this one is going to be 2300 and the width of this one it's 6000. So I knew that this photo was going to be quite a bit smaller than that, but in this case it could possibly work. Yes, Monica?
I have an emergency. I think I selected all the bridge photos by accident.
Oh no, and it's probably going
So how do I
crazy.
stop it?
Sometimes the escape key works, otherwise
I
just
tried
force.
that. Yes.
Can you go down to the bridge here and click on this and just close bridge? Like, can you just try to hit this little thing and just close the whole program, see if it cancels the process? Otherwise, it's going to go crazy. No? Is that helping? Oh, you're silent. Your sound is off. So I see your mouse moving, but I'm not-
Sorry. Yes. I think it's done its job. No, it's still okay. I'm just going to close bridge and get back in.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like the most
All I could
sensitive
think of, yeah.
solution. Okay.
All right. As long as it doesn't try to, because yes, it'll go crazy, and then it'll start with, because some of them are raw, and it'll yeah, it's gonna go bizarre if you try to open them all together. All right. Okay, so now here's the deal. First of all, how realistic is this gonna be, you guys? The first thing you need to do when you're trying to merge one photo to the other is look at the light. So what's the light like in the situation and the photo of the kids that are on the snow? Is there is it a bright sunny day? Is it night? Is it cloudy? What is it? Either everyone's on mute or no one's talking. Hello.
Like a bright day on snow. Or maybe
Right.
slightly foggy on snow.
Yeah, one thing, if I look at it, it's more like a cloudy day, like I don't see sun shining on them with
Yeah.
harsh shadows anywhere, right?
Look at the
So
shadow.
it's, yeah, it's not necessarily deep shadow like under a tree, but it's definitely a pretty cloudy, muggy day. I'm not sure if foggy, even maybe it's a bit
Well,
hazy.
yeah, cloudy, overcast.
Overcast, definitely an overcast day. So then I turn this eyeball off and I look at this, and what does the light look like here?
Very cloudy.
Overcast or.
It's
or cloudy.
overcast, but there's a little bit of brightness. Definitely there's more shadows here in the texture than there is in here, right? Like it's a bit more defined than this stuff. But that said, it's not that different. So we could feasibly
Well, the
put these
light's
guys in
coming from
here.
behind on the
Mhm.
desert one.
Yeah, it's directional, and it wouldn't be directional if there was no light. There's probably a sun shining somewhere back here that you can see a little bit more. Enough that maybe what's reflecting on the clouds is casting a bit of a shadow. It's very directional, like sunset light or something like that. Now, this itself is a photo that I picked up of some sample site. So it's possible that this is a put together photo, that this guy wasn't truly the photo that came with this sand. You know what I mean? I didn't do that, but it seems to me that this guy wouldn't be casting such a strong shadow. And remember, the reliability, the feasibility of a photo looking right when you combine things or not has to do with the light matching, right? So already we're not sure if the sky is matching there, but anyway, that said, the light is very yellow. Sky is very yellow. So when we bring this one in, I think the main concern isn't so much the color of the sun, because this is overcast. We could consider that overcast. I think what's happening mostly is that the color of this is very blue. It's very cold, and this is very warm. So we might have to do some correction there. So let's go ahead and do the following. We're going to try to make it work. Now, we're not going to have trails or anything. We might have to fake it. But sorry, I didn't mean to turn that off. But what first thing we need to do though on this is to have a mask, because we don't want all the snow. But this time, instead of being a mask where we modify the snow, we're not going to modify the snow. We're going to get rid of the snow. So it's actually going to be a layer mask versus an adjustment layer mask. It's just going to be a layer mask. So watch, we're going to go over here to this level, to this layer, I'm sorry. And then we're going to use one of these tools, and I don't know, let's just try the object selection tool.
Could you please share your screen?
I am sharing my screen.
Okay, all right, maybe it's me.
Can you see it? I can stop it and start it again so that it pops up maybe. Okay, I stopped my share now. And I'm going to try again in case it pops up for you now. Is that working now?
Yeah, no, it's working. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. So now I'm going to put a layer mask on this thing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I need to select this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, if you guys are on the modern version of Photoshop, like the latest version of Photoshop, you can just go to the object selection tool and do select subject, and that might work. For those of us who are in the older version or Photoshop VDI version, go to the object selection tool right there, and then hit the select subject. For those of you who are not, you don't need to select subject, you just hover over the shape and that works. But for us, we need to do the select subject. And so when I look around, then I'm going to get a bit closer. Looks like it's done a relatively good job. It seems to be cutting out the kids from the snow all the way around. It even got this little circle there, but it's also trying to eliminate that little bit. So we're going to have to fix that. Yeah. But is yours about this good? It has left the knot out. How about that? How did it work for you? So remember how we had to add or delete from a selection?
Sure.
So, yeah. Does everyone have a selection around the kids?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, no, maybe everyone has selection around the kid. So now inspect it close up, go up to zoom up, right? And then look at the edges and I go, looks like it's pretty good everywhere. Except for,
You've got a thing by that one.
yeah, I've got that weird thing on the one. I've got another little thing there. And then I'm missing this little knot. That's gonna might be harder. So first of all, I'm gonna add this little bit. So I'm gonna go to my selection tool, either my lasso or my square rectangle, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna add to my selection. So these pieces that have been gotten left out, I'm gonna hold down the shift key to add, and I'm gonna draw a little box around it. And boom, now that's been added to my selection. Same with that one, boom, and it's been added. So now everything about the kids is here. Now, each one of our selections is a bit different, so it might be that yours is different. But then I have another little spot here. If I go closer to the edges, looks like it's missing a little bit there of that sled there. And that's going to be harder to do with that one. So I'm going to choose my lasso tool up here, lasso tool, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to click my shift key to get the plus sign. And I'm going to just try to draw, and that didn't work well because I got too much. So I'm going to do Control or Command Z. I'm going to try again, and I'm going to be a little bit more accurate. And remember, do a little circle. And yeah, there we go. That worked a bit better. See how I'm fixing with all the stuff that I've been showing you guys? I'm fixing the automatic mask. And now I'm holding down my space bar to move over here, and I'm not sure if I can add this bit, but I'll give it a try. First, I'll try one of the automatic tools. I'm going to try the quick selection tool, and I'm going to get it really tiny, really tiny, so that I don't touch any of the gray or snow. I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to click here to see if that's going to work. And it looks like it might work. So again, I'm doing up its plus sign. I'm trying to.
You could cut off the long strings and just have them short strings outside that.
Yeah,
knot.
maybe, but right now I'm just trying to add even a bit
Yeah.
of it, because right now, see how it's kind of working? Yeah, and I might not need the long length of it, you're right, but I'm gonna get even tinier and tinier and see if perchance I can get those longs. I don't know. So I've got the teensiest little brush ever, and it's reading the stuff around it, and it's kind of seems like it might be working. I don't know. We'll see when it
Zoom in
gets
more.
cut out. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, you guys need to zoom in a bit to these things to see how it's working. So I'm still using the quick selection tool, and then I can just drag again and try to get that. And the moment it goes crazy and it starts getting some of that snow, I know I've gone too far, but I'll keep trying. And it's the only tool, remember, that's on permanent plus. Oh, see, there you go. See this last one, it got some snow. So I'm going to do Command or Control Z to undo that last one, because that went too far. And then I'm going to hold down the minus key and undo that. And it might, or it might not work. I might need at this point to grab the lasso tool to fix the final little bits, because it got a bit too much. So now I'm going to grab the lasso tool, and I'm going to get rid of this. So I'm going to hold down the Option key to undo, and I'm going to get rid of that. I'll try to make it fit the knot a bit better. Okay, so again, it's not going to be perfect, but now I've got my lasso tool, and now I'm adding with a shift key the bits and pieces that I want to add. And we'll see if these look a bit hokey later, we can just eliminate, like Barbara just said, we don't need to have these long strings, but I can do my best to add them. So I'm using the lasso tool to hand edit this selection. So again, see how all the little bits that I've been showing you little by little begin to work as you start getting into slightly more complicated selections, where you have to begin to make things that are automatic, that are pretty good, to work better. You have to hand. So I think I've got a pretty goodish selection on that rope now. And then I keep going around the edges. So always look at the stuff up high. I'm going to go a bit lower, Command minus, and then keep checking. And for the most part, I think it's done a pretty good job. Now, remember, one thing that's gonna be weird is that he's gonna have snow on his boot, on the sand.
You
So,
can color it.
whoops, so we might have
Make it
to-
Sandy.
Yeah, so we might have to work on making that sand or find some other way to fix that. I'm noticing that here we have a non-sandy sole. Maybe we can paste some of that in there. But anyway, those are things that we might need to consider as usual, whether this is the best image to put on that. But that's a decision that you guys can choose better images right now. I'm kind of happy with this selection around them. Is everyone kind of happy with their selection at this point?
Yeah.
All right, so watch what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go over here, make sure that I'm still selecting the correct layer, which I should, because you've been selecting it, but and then watch what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go down here and I'm gonna click on, not the circle for adjustment layer mask, which has been using. I'm gonna go one over to the actual just mask. This one gives us just a layer mask. So I'm gonna click one time. And now the kids are floating.
Oh, cool.
Now look at the mask up here. The mask appears on the layer itself. See, not up
Yeah.
there, but on the pixel layer. And it's hiding in black everything that we're not wanting to see, and in white everything that we do want to see. See that? Now, it's possible that it might have been easier to select the snow, in which case when we made the hole, we would have had a hole, but remember this can be inverted. So Control I. Now you have a piece of snow with a hole, or Control or Command I. Now you have the kids. Okay, so just inverting your mask gives you the opposite effect. So sometimes
be
it's easier
easy to
it might have been
erase that.
easier sometimes to select the outside for the inside, and then you just masked it. In this case, the kids work. So here's now our guys. Now, given the situation, it looks like, we're gonna have to do some, and this is something that I can't teach you right now, but to make this look more realistic, you would probably have to make the edge of the sand be looking like it's flying out a little bit and stuff like that. So maybe what we can have it do is look like, if we push it out, then you might not notice so much that the sand isn't flying. Then we can bring some tracks from something else and just lay some tracks down there. I don't know, we can play with that. But clearly, this is a layer mask that makes them fit over here. And let me just show you one more thing, and then the class for today will be over. Let's try to match the coloring a little bit. Now, the coloring on these kids, look at the white. It's very blue. It's very cold. Snow is a very cold light. And this is very warm. So either we make the background much colder, so it looks like they're in a very cold environment, or we make them much warmer. Given that they're in this clothing, it would make more sense to make that colder, but I don't know how that's going to look. But let's see if we make this look like it's stormy and cold. I mean, it's all subjective, right? So I'm going to try one over the other. So I'm going to select my background. And let's give that an adjustment layer. I'm going to go to the color balance, and let's see what happens if we make this whole thing look more stormy by making it a bit bluer. I don't know how realistic it is. And again, I think maybe the sky needs to be made more stormy, maybe not so much the sand, but I can go to the shadows or to the highlights here and make the highlights. See, look at that, how interesting. The sky that looked kind of sunny before and weird, now that I'm taking some of that yellow out, it's actually becoming like, it doesn't look stormy anymore. It just looks cloudy. So that's kind of ruining the effect. I don't think these belong to the same photo. Whoever did these, they probably had two different photos because they don't match in color. So anyway, I can do some of that and I can darken the whole thing. But for better or for worse, that sky is matching them a bit more. I don't think this is matching them, but you know what I mean? You've got to equalize the light, or I'm going to turn this off. Plan B would be that I would give them a yellower light. So now I'm just turning that bottom off, leaving it all very yellow. I'm going up to this top layer and I'm going to give them a yellow cast. So they're already selected. They've been selected by the mask I made. So I can pick that selection up by holding a command or control key and clicking one time on this mask, on the mask that already exists. No, control, sorry, control or yeah, control or command. And you see how now they have been selected right there. So control or command and clicking. And now I'm going to head down here and now give them an adjustment layer, a color balance, where I'm going to give them a much yellower light. So see how their skin, everything is turning more yellow. So it makes a bit more sense to have them in this yellow environment. I'm trying to equalize the light. So now if I turn this on or off, they look like they match more to the environment. Does that make sense, you guys, what I'm doing?
Yes.
But in this case, it was already happening. It was already masked because I had a mask, so I didn't have to remask it. I just used that mask. And that's affecting just the boys now. As I said, there's much more to this. You'd have to try to create the trails. You'd have to, you know, do so much more to make this look realistic. But look what happens now if I move this around. I've disconnected them from their mask. Why? Because this is a separate layer, right? So I'm going to Command and Control Z. This is where clipping a mask to each one might be helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and clip this mask to that one. And the shortcut would be hold down the Option or Alt key between the two, and then you click, or what I had shown you before, you open the properties and you click on this and you clip it. So now these two are connected. And if I turn this one off, the other one turns off. And if I want them to move together, I have to select both and link them. And then they will always move together, and they will only be affected if I turn this one on or off. That one, it's affected. So now I can just move them everywhere, and the mask comes with me, and the color comes with me as well. Okay. So what did I do to these two? Once again, I linked them. I have to make this bigger so you guys can see that, because otherwise you won't see the link. I linked them and I clipped them. So they only work on, this one only works on this one. If I turn this eyeball off of the boys, that one turns off by itself. See, it goes gray. If I had not had them clipped, I'm going to unclip them. Then if I turn this eyeball off, you would see that level, that color shining. But by clipping them like this, then that one only affects this if it's turned on. And then for them to move together, I linked them. So one, click on the other one, click Shift, right click, and I now have to unlink because they're linked, or link layers, right click and link layers. And that gives you the combo where this, you can move it around now and it's going to always stay yellow, and click. And if I made a mistake and I want to fix that, let's go see how that little knot looked. And not bad. I got most of my knot. Look at that. Pretty good. The selection was a pretty good job of getting the knot, right? So anyway, you slowly work on details like that. You work on maybe taking this chunk of snow off of this boot, and then maybe you can turn the rest of this, you can paste a little bit of this one over there. So you flip it so it looks like it didn't have snow. Or maybe you turn it yellow, that color, so it looks like it's sand. Anyway, you slowly start going through all the motions, but the most important thing that's missing here is that we don't have any
Shit.
track or groove and no shadow. In the original photo, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off this mask for a second. In the original photo, see the shadow around him on the snow? So the one thing that makes it look like it's not landed at all is that there's no shadow. So maybe we can create a bit of a shadow in there and make it look more real. So I have to go, let me see if I can quickly do this. Give it a little bit of a shadow. There's so many different ways of doing shadows, but I'm going to make a really quick levels. Let me see. I don't know if this is going to work because I'm in such a hurry. There's so many different ways of doing it, but let me see. If this works, I'll show you later, but I wouldn't want it clipped. I want it down here. And, oh, no. Here. And now I'm gonna grab that. And I'm going to skew it a little bit so that I have it kind of under them. Maybe it's feathered too far. It's a bit too feathered. Well, yeah, I'll have to play around with it a little bit, but see how I've made a little shadow under there? The color of it is too intense. But anyway, remember that realistically, everything casts a shadow, even in this little light. So I would probably have to do a deeper shadow for it to look like this one. Anyway, for now, that gives it at least a little bit of settling. And yeah, it's not in the right place, but, and I didn't show you how to do it, but just see the difference between not having a shadow and having a shadow. Just looks a little bit more realistic. So there's the not shadow versus a bit of a very, very diffuse shadow. So anyway, I'm going to save file, save as, save on your computer. And I'm going to call this one Sledding on Sand, mainly composite. I'm going to show you how to make composites. Say okay. And I won't have time. I know I won't have time between here and next Wednesday. So I'm not going to work on this, but if you guys have time to work on this and see if you can create a bit more stuff around it to make it be a bit more realistic. I don't know if it's possible. With textures, we could do it, but I would like you to try to either make a face, a portrait of some kind. It doesn't need to be this kid. Change his face one way or another, or either work on this one, or better yet, create a different composite with two different elements, maybe stuff that's in my class files, or maybe stuff that you have, and create a composite of some other kind and put it up here in Photoshop, trying to, at the very least, it won't be perfect. We're learning how to do these things. We're beginning to learn, but at the very least, try to make sure that you've got like things that match in lighting. Like it would make sense for this thing to be in there, even if, of course, you don't sled down and hot close down sand, but to make it look like it's ridiculously realistic, the light would still have to match. Otherwise, it would look completely out of place if there was sun on the background and not on the kids or something like that. Then it would look weird. I mean, beyond weird. This is weird already, but you know what I'm trying to say. You want to make things that look strange, but possible. And for that, you need to match the lighting. Okay. I'm going to back out. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday for our last class. Okay, reserve any questions you have. And then I'll see you in 2 days.
Cool.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna slowly back out. sign out of my. Photoshop.
No, what to select only.
Backing out, signing out of everything. Preferences, disconnect. All right. That's twice now that it crashed before I got to shut down. This time I'm shutting down
Dear.
the whole process. EDI gun. And shut down, log out, cancel out, and yay, I'm out. Okay. See you guys in 2 days.
Okay, you have a good one. Thanks.